Hi, everybody. I don't know if they can quite hear me on the mic, but I'm going to, I assume the interpreter has stopped speaking. I can be heard. Okay, I'll call the roll. Camille Casaretti, are you present?
Present.
Antonia Ferraro, yes, I'm here. Tia Shellsteed. Vincent Liu, I believe he will not be with us tonight. Nana Poku Ajakum.
Here.
Alfred DeAngelis. Joseph Alexander may be coming later. He had an emergency. Yvonne Bonda.
Yvonne sent a message saying he had a childcare conflict, so he probably won't be coming.
Okay. And Nancy Randall is coming late. She has another meeting to attend. Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka. Okay. And Nakia Muhasa Brown may be joining us later. Is that correct?
She had an emergency at work and probably will not be.
Okay. All right. We do. Yes, we do have quorum. All right, I will, shall I read the introduction or would somebody else like to read the introduction? Okay, so, thank you all for coming to District 15's Community Education Council meeting tonight. We appreciate your time and we're glad that you could join us. For those of you who are new to CEC meetings, there are 32 CECs throughout the city, plus 4 citywide councils. Each CEC represents a community school district, and each is made up of 11 volunteer members, 9 of whom are elected by parents in the district. The remaining members are appointed by the Brooklyn Borough President, and we have 1 high school student member. CEC 15 is a state mandated public body responsible for ensuring that public school parents and the public have input in educational decisions that are made at the school district level. Our council reviews education policies and advocates for high quality education that benefit all of our District 15 public elementary and middle school students. CEC 15 serves 35 elementary and middle schools and 1 high school under the oversight of our superintendent. CEC members serve in an advisory role on education matters to the district superintendent, the chancellor of the Department of Education, and to state and city elected officials. We approve district school zoning lines submitted by the Department of Education. We evaluate our district superintendent. We review the district's educational programs, and we support school leadership teams. We also submit recommendations for the School Construction Authority's annual capital plan. And as of recent amendments to the law, CECs advise in the selection of parent coordinators. We actively seek input and feedback from the public and encourage you to visit our website, cecd15.org. Take a look at our Facebook page, connect with us on Twitter, and write to us about any issues you may want to address or learn about. Each school has a CEC liaison. All of our names and contact info are available on our website. And I will just remind you to please sign our sign-in sheets. I'm putting the link in the chat for those of you attending remotely. Camille, we will have to select an alternate parliamentarian tonight as Joe is not here. Does anybody want to volunteer to?
It's possible Joe will come.
It's
so
possible.
Maybe what we should do is skip over the part for right now and then just like do it later when we get to a public comment period. That'll give Joe time to come and just forward with the election presentation since we're a little bit.
Okay, okay.
So, but before we get started, there are some changes to the agenda. And I want to apologize to everyone, who came here to see the school construction authority presentation. Unfortunately, that is being rescheduled. But we do have two wonderful new presentations for this evening, which we were able to get right away. I'm grateful to Martha Kessler and her colleague who really went the extra mile to make this happen. So I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda. Okay. Okay, so with that being said, I would like to introduce Martha Kessler, who is working with FACE at the DOE, the Family Community Engagement. She is going to give us a presentation on the citywide and community education councils for the election, which is in progress right now. And 1 minute while we get the presentation set up. Where did they send it, Mark? Yeah, there's 27, possibly more now.
And they're looking.
And they are able to see that. They are able to see you as well.
That's the camera.
You could either face that, or you could come sit here with.
We could set up a microphone over here at the dais.
You have a clicker for the slideshow?
You could just say next slide, Martha.
Yeah, let me jump on. Now it's
Martha, are you gonna hang out over there, not over here?
I'm controlling.
I just got COVID.
So can you start the site, the slideshow for me? From the start? All I can do. Oh, that's, I got it. I just have to work out which button it was. Okay. I love it. How are you? Fantastic, thank you. And my new best friend who gave me a clicker. This is great. And actually, I love Red Hook. It's a pleasure to be here. With you people here and you people on the internet. My name is Martha Kessler. I am I'm still a parent, but I'm an ex-public school parent and I have 2 children in college. They made their whole way through the public school system. They did great. We were wonderfully supported. I was a very active parent on president's councils and other parent-driven organizations. And this is the 4th election I've done as a parent coming back and trying to talk to people about getting involved and parent engagement. And let's see. It's not working. Hang on. I thought sound effects like, yes, there you go. Oh, you're doing it? So I'll just give you a wave. So one of the things I learned about being a active parent is that when parents get involved, no matter where, whether it's at their school or their community, schools feel the impact, schools get better. So it it's really important that you understand that although meetings can be long and sometimes torturous, there are enormous benefits for you, for your kids, and for all the kids in the community. That went back to the first one there. Here we go. One more. Let's go the wrong way. Oh, this is fun. I'm loving it. All right, next page. So things change. The law keeps changing. CECs are controlled by state law, not by chancellor's regulations, as our parent associations are. And this year, parents lobbied Albany, like they seem to do now pretty much every 2 years. We have a group of parents, and they, in order to make our community councils more diverse, representing all of our stakeholders, a seat has been added for D75 parents. Now, some of you may not even know what a D75 program is, and it's actually a program often cohabiting a school with a grade school, and it's a school for specifically for children with disabilities who need a very special environment in which to learn. Those kids may not be part of general education, but they're part of our community. And it's really important that they have a voice on every council. Filling that seat may be challenging. We're trying really hard to get word out to our D75 parents because they're the electors. So if you don't have a D75 student, you'll not be voting for this new member. They're going to be elected by the parents of their community. So just to review how the CECs work, we have 32 educational councils, one in every district, and then 4 citywide councils that cover particular populations. We have a high school council, council for English language learners, and then 2 councils for special education. The citywide council on special education, which is for parents of any child with an IEP, and then, as I mentioned before, District 75. So it gives you an idea of how the councils, the composition of the councils, they're all pretty much the same, give or take 1 member here and there. Really, high schools is the big difference because each borough will send 2 high school parents. That's for a total of 10 elected high school parents. And every council has a couple of nominee appointees. Here at the community level, it's a borough advocate. Our borough, I just made a new job, a borough advocate, our borough president, and then at the citywide level, it's the public advocate. So the most important thing about this map is every single seat is up for re-election. All of these good people are going to have to run again if they want to serve again. And it's the same process, whether this is your first time or your 10th time. So I'm not going to go into this slide too much because you're here. You're seeing what a council does. There's discussion about the capital plan. There's going to be discussions about zonings, about co-locations. These are all things in the community that the CEC plays a part in. They have many other functions. And for me, as a kind of a political parent, I also really believe that they are a platform upon which you can bring your issues, your neighbors, and your community's issues to the light of the DOE. And I will say, as a parent leader, I used to think the DOE didn't listen to parents, but actually, guess what? State law mandates that they listen to CEC parents. They have to. It's in the law. So this is a really great platform to affect change in both policies and the direction that the DOE is taking, many things. If you really want to check out council, which is what you're doing right now, you're here. You could also see a citywide council. Every council meets every month. And if you have a child in high school or with an IEP or an English language learner, you're also eligible to participate in citywide councils. All of the meeting schedules are on our website, our schools.nyc.gov website. So another change in the law that happened 4 years ago is who elects councils. Used to be just PA presidents, executive secretaries, and treasurers. And now it is everybody. You all, if you are a public school parent, you can participate in this election. Each parent in each family. So how? Using a New York City school account. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. I just want to say one more thing about running. CECs are not just one meeting a month. It's not just what you see here. There are committees. We talked earlier about schools, that every CEC member is assigned a school that they are a liaison to. There are many elements of this position that involve work. If you're a PA president, many of you at this meeting are parent leaders, you'll know how much work goes on behind the scenes. So do make sure you have the bandwidth, because the worst thing is to say, oh, this looks good, I think I'll sign up. And then you get elected and then you're like, oh no, I didn't sign up for like all the, and then we're left with a council that isn't filled. And we need all of our members to be here for the council to really be effective. And I'm not saying you can't be effective without all your members, but we need full councils throughout the whole of the city. So going to talk about NICSA. Many of you have already school computer programs. I don't know, Galaxy, Pupil Path, there may be new ones since my day. But NICSA is run by the DOE. And actually, if you have more than one child in more than one school, NICSA is a way of looking at all your children together in one place. It's very, very useful for downloading your IEP if you have one, attendance history, it has the transportation, blah, 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 safety information. This thing has been around for a couple of years now, and you may have gotten a NICSA and you may not have looked at it because your school uses a different program. But if you go onto your NICSA to apply, you might find that your password has expired. If you haven't looked at it in a couple of months, they will kind of, I don't know what they'll just, put your password to bed. So your parent coordinator, we've been trying to get them ready, like get ready for parents to call you because they're going to try and go, oh, I think I'll apply for the CEC. So make sure your NICSA account is open and that all of your children are showing. We have something in a rule in the CEC elections called the same school rule, which means that when we're seating this CEC after the election, only one parent from each district school can be seated. It's actually a wonderful rule in order to prevent like the really big schools in the district dominating because they have more parents who can vote and they get more votes. But it's a complete like nightmare in terms of people knock each other out all over the place. So we need a lot of people to step up to run for the council. And if you get knocked out because you had the same school rule, if somebody were to step down, those seats become open. So don't give up and walk away and say, I'm done forever. Keep an eye out. Talk to your friends who are on the CEC, and when a space comes open, you can apply and you may be seated if there's a parent from the same school. You may be seated, but just not at the election. Is that clear? So this just shows you just how easy it is. And because I have this funny thing here, I'm not going to show you, but NICSA, the hardest thing about NICSA is getting your password sorted out, your creation code. Once you're in, it's really easy. And NICSA will point you to what councils you're eligible for. Like I said before, as I mentioned, if you have a child who has an IEP, it opens you up for more councils. So this family on the left here, there's 2 kids, but she's actually eligible to run for 4 councils, as is the other parent. So in this situation, she can run in all 4 races. She can win all 4 races, but she can only be seated on 1 council. So we ask our parents who are running in more than 1 race to put their councils in order of preference. What preference? Would you really want to be on CC 24? That's what I want to be on. I'm putting that first, and I'm putting CCD 75 second. See what I mean? So NICSA is very clever in that way, but if you don't have all your kids showing, it cannot guide you to the right councils, and you can end up being disqualified from the election. So please double check that when you go on your NICSA, all your kids are showing. So once we finished applications, you get an email saying you've been conditionally approved. You can start campaigning. We're going to offer some prep sessions starting right after, in the middle of February, starting on the 15th, where candidates can come. We'll talk to them about the rules of campaigning and also about forums. Number 1 campaigning rule, everybody you know who can vote for you needs their NICSA and needs to get their NICSA activated. So that is really the best thing that you can do to get votes, is to get people's accounts running so they can vote for you. We have forums. Each president's council, as you know, president's council is made up of all the PTA, PA leaders in the district, and they meet every month at the district level, similar to the CEC, different roles and responsibilities, but made up of parents and parent leaders all coming together for the good of their community. So the President's Council will be holding the forum. We'll support with tech, and It's not a debate. You're not going to be fighting. No, it's a chance to give a statement, to answer some pretty nice, simple questions that will allow you to talk about what you care about, what you've done, how you think that you can benefit the CEC. And then we're back to Nixa again for voting. Again, best campaigning you can do is to get everybody signed up for their Nixa account. Some schools like to meet and strategize because of the same school rule, but be warned, you could go through a whole like, well, she won't run and he won't run, and then find out that because they have kids in other schools that they get knocked out anyway. So it really, the best thing is for all parents who are interested, who have the time, who want to make that commitment should run. Everybody should run. So just here's our calendar for, oh, look, I can move the, look at the, I'm trying to move the thing. February, I give up. February the 13th, oh, there it is. February the 13th is currently the last day of applications. My guess is based on historical habits and patterns, we will be extending, but I don't know for sure when or if for sure. We have our forums all the way through March into mid-April, and then voting starts on the 20th of April. And in May, we have to sort out all of our, same school rule people, and we usually do a couple of runoffs in a couple of districts, but by the end of June, our members are sworn in because they are elected officials. So they're sworn in, and we offer some workshops and a kind of a week of orientation, and they're ready to begin their 2-year term in July the 1st. So as I mentioned before, don't be discouraged if you run and you're not seated, because often spaces do come available. So just keep your eye out. So we have a website elections 2023. So plural elections 2023. It's part of schoolsnyc.gov, and it's also our email address, elections2023 at schools.nyc.gov. If any of you out there are PA presidents and you'd like us to come and talk to your PA, we have a wonderful team of consultants who are all parent leaders. We're either PA president, president's council leaders, or we have 3 CEC, ex-CEC members all working, trying to get the word out. Our goal is to get the word out as hard, as fast as we can, so that any parent who would like to run at least has the information and can make that choices. And pretty much everything is translated into 9 languages, including this presentation. So if you have a large population of parents with ELL, who have a different first language, please let us know, and we'll provide a presentation in that language. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
I really appreciate all this work that you're doing, and I know that we share some of the information by email, but I was just thinking as we were talking about the interpretation, maybe during the interpretation, so we can share the presentation in those other languages with the interpretation. I don't know if that's something that someone at home might be able to see.
Well, actually, on our website, probably starting in the next couple of days, you'll be able to download this. The presentation I've just given is a video, and we're gathering. We're doing fully immersive, so the presentation is in the language, and then the presenter is a native speaker. But right now, I mean, I can definitely get Spanish. But we haven't finished recording them all. But that's another option.
Yeah, or just, we can share where the link is.
I will. I'll share those links with you.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martha, for coming.
Good evening, respected CEC members and community constituents. I'm happy to be here. And before I begin, I just want to say, we cannot oversell the accomplishments of Camille and the council. No. Of Camille and the council, who very effectively drive awareness, buzz, and call to action I'm Meredith Kiley, and I'm the district supervisor for the Office of School Food and Nutrition Services. I have been with the department for 23 years. I've worked in 3 regions and in 5 districts. But here in Brooklyn, I found a nice home and my sweet spot. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the evolution of school food. It may seem different than it was back when you were all in school. And let's talk soup. Okay, so it's very important to us that the students tell us what they want to eat. So we had flyers circulating. The school food service managers, the kitchen managers were asked to put this on the wall in the cafeteria, right by the serving line, also a stack on the counter. So that when students came through the line, they could scan the QR code and take a 3-minute survey, no more than 5 questions, on SurveyMonkey to tell us what they want to eat. Okay, I also sent an email blast to all the principals in the district, asking them to share this information with their community partners and their contacts. All right, so we have 26 different menus, 500 recipes, 1,800 schools. At one time, it was 1.1 million students. It's whittled down to 900,000. I like the ring of 1 million. And we serve over 800,000 meals a day. That's combined breakfast and lunch. All items are student approved before they appear on the menu. Our menu management department works with our supply chain management department collectively toward product acquisition. We hold taste tests. And last year, the taste test happened at 516, the Brooklyn School Collaborative Studies, 146. And the students let us know what they think of the food. And then we do the research and development that's required to contract the item and for it to appear on our menu. Something new this year is cook ambassadors. We have 32 districts, so we have 1 cook ambassador designated per district. In our district, it's Constance Hampton from PS1. The school PS1 in Sunset Park has very rich history. First of all, the community interest in our food program is strong. PS1 is home to Brooklyn's first all-vegetarian school. They're not all vegetarian any longer, but they did pilot it and try that out there. Back in 2017, Bill de Blasio and Chancellor Farina at the time announced the Meatless Monday. And then we announced it again in 130 Annex, and we've held true to it. It's a new continuum that is here to stay. And we added the plant-powered Fridays to that as well. So those are our bookends. We have our healthy meals on Monday and Friday. PS1 also had a very active WITS program within it. So that's what's trending. We've got the plant-powered Fridays, which Mayor Adams is very much behind, and he invites all of us to join him in his pursuit of good health. Benefits of a vegan diet include improved health, regard for animal welfare, and the beneficial effect on the environment. Water is available in all cafeterias, if not filtered water fountains. Then we have water jets. Our chicken is antibiotic free. Our hamburgers are New York sourced. We don't serve pork, we don't serve juice. Okay. Reducing plastic. This is another mission that we got behind, or I would say we even pioneered. It aligns with New York City's goal to reduce solid waste by 2030. The students right here in PS 15 led this plastic-free day, and they did a great job at it. So it was rolled out first in May of 2022. We did a video. Hi, principal. Hello there. All right. This is an observation. I'm happy to see you. Okay, so yeah, Plastic Free Day was student driven. There's a very active green team here. And they partnered with Cafeteria Culture and the Office of Sustainability and the Office of Food and Nutrition Services. And we offered a plastic-free meal. So what does that look like? It is finger food. We don't pass out utensils. We don't offer cups at the water station. We ask the students to bring in their own thermos that day, and we're hosting it once per month. So it's mozzarella sticks, broccoli florets, banana, and our salad bar also is finger food. So pepper strips, cherry tomato, carrot, celery, broccoli and cauliflower again. And the dressing is in a squeeze bottle. And they do, the first time when we were part of the pilot, a waste audit was conducted at the end of the day. And the plastic was reduced from, and I couldn't believe the statistic, but it's easy to remember. I think you'll never forget it. Stay with you. It was reduced from 100 pounds per day of waste. The big tarps were drawn to 1 pound. It went from 100 pounds of waste to 1 pound of waste. So years back, we banned styrofoam and we sourced paper products, compostable trays and utensils. And now we are looking toward reducing plastic as well. Okay, so the USDA sets the standards, and two new nutrients that we target are fat and sodium. And we like to reduce those. So we've reformulated a lot of the fan favorites, the Jamaican beef patty, pizza to contain less oil. Okay, next slide. We have prohibited ingredients. We pride ourselves on not serving these. We tried to partner with Goya a long time ago. And it's a huge contract. If you get a contract with the New York City, you know, it's actually a good thing, but they didn't want to take the MSG out of their seasoning. So we weren't able to source Sazon and adobo from them. But we have a long list of prohibited ingredients, which include tropical oils. We don't have products which contain tropical oils. High fructose corn syrup, no MSG, no artificial colors or flavors, no artificial sweeteners. We updated our prohibited ingredient list, removing over 60 additives from our ingredient specs. So this makes us a leader in child nutrition. Pizza slice comparisons. They're comparing a pizza slice from Sbarro, think Roosevelt Field Mall, the malls, the food courts, Tombstone, a frozen pizza, and our product. So they measure up pretty equally, but where they differ is in the sodium content. Our sodium is just about half of the sodium compared to the other slices. And considering that, you know, we shouldn't take in more than 1,800 milligrams, 2,000 milligrams of sodium a day, that Sbarro's pizza slice is packing 970 milligrams of sodium. Menu accommodations. And again, you know, we have more allergic children, it seems, nowadays than we did back then. And when students would come to us and say that they had a food allergy, we didn't, you know, at that time when we didn't have the knowledge that we have now, we didn't want to really address that. We would say that we're food service workers, we're not clinicians. Now we have a registered dietitian who works in our headquarters on Vernon Boulevard. And as soon as we learn of a dietary restriction, we address it immediately, and we are able to accommodate that student and customize an individual meal for them. So we have gotten some inquiries with regard to gluten-free lunch, and so long as there's a 504 on file, we will set up a call with our registered dietitian, the school nurse, the administration, the manager, the cook, the parent. And we discuss what's needed, whether it's a blended meal, a pureed meal, a gluten-free meal, lactose intolerant. We can address it just about a lot. Cafeteria enhancement. This is fun. This is a cafeteria makeover. We didn't have any in District 15, and now they're coming fast and furious. The end of February, next month, Brooklyn School of the Arts, where my field office is located, they are rolling out along with 136. And what this is the cafeteria gets new furniture, charging stations, wall art, very nice decor, and these merchandisers. So the food, it's the same food, but it's presented differently. And the students can just step right up and take their meal. It's faster transit time, throughput through the line. It resembles a food court. And it gives the high school students more of an adult feel. It is for now only in high schools, but I may as well let the cat out of the bag because good news travels fast. We are getting a CEE, cafeteria enhancement, in just one elementary school. And the very, very first elementary school to have this is PS 230. And I will tell you why in a moment. I'll keep the suspense going. Okay, that brings me to halal. Okay. Halal is, well, we offer halal items in every school. And halal items are available on the menu inside every school. But then we have certified halal schools, and that's a little bit different. The imam visited the school and did a kitchen inspection. He trained the employees. We're segregating the equipment. So if you're a certified halal site, you have a separate oven for your halal chicken and an oven for the regular menu. You have separate refrigerators because it has to do with the protein in the product. And you know, in the way that kosher kitchens don't mix meat and dairy. It's like that. So halal, a lot of interest sparked at 2:30 in the Kensington section of Brooklyn. And the PTA had a petition with over 200 signatures from the community expressing interest in halal meals. So we considered that, and we have to have a conversation and with the administration, and that was step one. We had a spirited dialogue to determine whether it was beneficial to migrate to halal. The infrastructure wasn't there inside that site. It's a very, very small kitchen, like a shoebox. And we had to have the electrical power box, the circuit to support the extra equipment which was needed. And DSF partnered, the executive director went down, we had a meeting, and we decided to move forward with the halal. We're gonna make it work. Their school across the street, their lower school is a leased building. So they're going to have it also. But now here comes the surprise. 2:30 is getting the cafeteria enhancement because they are also getting halal. So we figured we would bring the two in together because 2:30 being very, very tight, and due to the space constraints, we really needed to make that cafeteria over. So they're our first CEE, I'm sorry. They're our first cafeteria enhancement, and they're going halal. So I don't know which will come first, halal or the cafeteria enhancement, but by June 30th, there's a promise to have it all done. So the school across the street, the lower school, it's pre-K, K, and 1. They are just getting the food, the halal meal, but they're not getting the makeover. Now, PS 230, grade 2 through 5, they're getting both. Okay, so we determined that enough students within 230 wanted halal and had interest in halal, that it warranted the tipping point to go ahead and move forward with that. So I thank you for your time and attention. And I'm deeply appreciative for our collaboration. And I think more important than speaking is listening. And if you have any questions or concerns or any feedback that you'd like to add to this discussion, I'm happy to hear from you.
I have a question.
Thank you.
So, here in Red Hook, we're gonna be getting a new building called the Harbor School, by 2027. And it's going to have a real working kitchen from my understanding. Is that correct, Raphael? It's gonna have a real kitchen in that, at the Harbor School.
I didn't hear the specific, I haven't seen the details of that.
Oh,
yet, but I'll
okay.
look into it because I'm not aware of that.
Oh, okay.
I do know that it has been, the project's been delayed to
Right.
2027.
But in the list of things, it said it was getting like an actual kitchen. I'm pretty sure. So I guess my question is, when you have an actual kitchen, does that change the menu and how?
No, there's two types of kitchens. We have modified kitchens.
Okay,
And in this district, with very, very, very old schools are over 100 years old, they don't even have cooking kitchens. They were more like soup kitchens. And in fact, Alyssa, my colleague there, has John Jay High School. And she satellites to a lot of the smaller sites that can't prepare on site, like the PS 39s of the world, 118, 140, the children's school. They're all recipients of those meals and she sends food to them. So a basic kitchen is a modified kitchen. It doesn't have the Ansel hood that takes all the hot air. So you can't cook from scratch. You're not using raw products or sauteing onion and garlic on a stovetop with an open flame. So it's a modified kitchen. Then we have our cooking kitchens where we have the stove with the pilot and the Ansel system. And you can get much more creative. So Sunset Park has it all. That's the Willy Wonka of kitchens. They have an ice machine and they have all that good stuff. And I have seen the flyer for the Harbor School, and I would think it would come with a state-of-the-art kitchen, being it's got a swimming pool and all the other bells and whistles. But,
does it impact the menu though,
It-
to have that?
oh, right, thank you. So, yeah, so it doesn't impact the menu.
Oh.
It's the same menu per grade. So they would move to a junior high school menu, which is more of a trend menu, and they offer a daily special, right, Alyssa? That's different than the K through 12. We're following a K through 12 since the pandemic, now that we're just coming out and we transitioned back to the cafeteria. But we really did have different menus. And the cook ambassadors are working on recipes. And I think one of the, right here, in the second edition of the Scoop, this is new. Stay tuned to hear more about the spring cycle menu in our next issue. All menus are planned on a cycle basis for each semester of the school year. This helps maintain a steady supply of food and allows students to be introduced to food items several times a year. So the spring menu will be different than the heavier winter menu, which makes sense. Like we may see some stews, some gumbos in the winter, and in the spring, it will be a lighter menu. So they tailor it to the month and time of year. But we've tried, it's cyclic. The menus repeats every 3 months. And I have nostalgia for what existed. And I do remember a time when, the Bronx had Jamaican beef patties. I worked in the Bronx. That's where I started. And Chinatown was serving, rice, because if Asians didn't eat rice with every meal, they didn't feel like they ate. So we no longer do that. We follow one menu for the whole city, so that in the event of an alleged food illness and someone claims that they got food poisoning, we can trace it back and we can see how many other people got sick on that same day. And then, maybe attach that to the manufacturer or where it was sourced. So that's the reason why. And now our menu is our contract with the students of the city of New York, and we stick to it.
And now with these kitchens, is the DOE giving any thought to the gas issue with these stoves?
We are moving to electric now when we can. So if my gas stove has been repaired so many times that now it's just the tech said it's obsolete, we will replace it with an electric stove. So even kitchens equipped with gas, we're getting electric for this reason. And Alyssa's covering it too. The new inclusion school, PS 958. 958, they saw their completion and their opening in September, and they did not have gas. So I said, beautiful looking kitchen, but they couldn't cook. So because they couldn't cook, PS24 was satelliting the meals to them. They just recently got gas. But when that happens, National Grid has to come around, and it's a process.
Yeah.
To get the gas, so we prefer not to have gas, but that was a very good question. Yeah, we're going electric these days. All right. So in the interest of time, I don't want to take it all up, but it was definitely, yeah, thank you.
For all of this work you do, and,
Thank you twice.
there is one question on Zoom. I don't know if you have 2 more minutes.
Sure. I'm gonna sit and hear the whole thing. I'm not leaving you guys, because anything I
Oh,
can say, I already
okay,
know.
hold on. Let's see if I can, find the question.
Oh,
I have to find it.
Shanice, are you able to read the questions?
Oh, it's a raised hand. Yeah, just ask her to unmute, I guess.
Hi, I'm Janet. I have my hand raised. Can you hear me?
Yes.
okay, I'm
Just
I'm
barely.
tuned in.
So my question revolves around the 8,
Janet, give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to, get.
no problem.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you can go ahead and ask the question.
Oh,
Oh.
okay, somebody's.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Janet, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So my question with the enhanced cafeterias and the 8 major food allergens, are the foods covered and labeled as foods that might contain these allergens?
Yeah. This is being the camera for.
Should I just type it in the chat?
You have to be in front of the mic. You have the mic.
Thank you.
That mic will capture everything.
Will I remember next year? I don't. Okay, hi, sure, so I'd like to answer that.
So I guess I have.
We don't offer an allergy-free environment simply because the products that we purchase come from plants where nuts and eggs, seafood is present. So we have, as an organization, we have an allergy awareness. An allergy awareness, what? An allergy, we have allergy awareness. We don't offer allergy free. So it's really up to the student to know what the student can eat or not eat. And if the student is unable to decide for himself, then the expectation is that a para walks that student through the line and helps that student make that decision. We would also talk with the parent and send a menu home so that the parent could review the menu with their child. And that's why I say, that menu is our contract. We don't want to make substitutions unnecessarily because that, the expectation is that the menu is reviewed and that the student decides for themselves whether they're going to bring lunch that day or dine in.
Janet, does that answer your question?
It does and it doesn't, because to my knowledge, the 8 major food allergens must be labeled, especially in places and spaces where so many people are being fed lunches. So I don't know how the DOE works around that.
it really depends on the student and whether the student has an IEP or a 504 on file. If the student has a note from a physician and that note would go to the principal, it would go to the school nurse, they would loop in the food service manager, and we would see at that point where we would come into it. And if we need to have a conversation with our registered dietitian in making a meal accommodation per their dietary restriction, that's how that happens.
Thank you so much.
You are
Thank
welcome.
you,
You are
Meredith.
welcome.
Thank you for being
Okay.
here. Thank you for
Is it-
coming
thank
at the
you.
last minute and doing such a wonderful presentation. So again, everyone, welcome. We have 33 people on the Zoom now, which is great. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us at PS 15 in Red Hook. Many thanks to Principal Kavanaugh, who is here, and the wonderful staff and families of PS 15 for hosting tonight's meeting. I am going to hand the floor over to Nana Koku Agiekum, who is the CEC 15 school liaison for PS 15, and he's just going to say a few words. So, just turn this around. Here, I'll just turn it on.
Okay, you can hear me, okay, so loud. All right, thank you very much, Camille, fearless leader, and then again, I appreciate the CEC 15 fellow board members for making this happen, and coming to Red Hook, which was part of my promise that I made to Principal Kavanaugh that was going to happen before the end of our term. Just to speak a little bit about PS 15. I was here about 3 months ago or 4 months ago for the first time, and I had the opportunity to tour the neighborhood. As most of my CEC board members would know, a few years ago, there was a big discussion that we had, which was involved in the charter school, and some of the comments that were made. It was very important that we as CEC members also came here to feel for ourselves what this school has to offer for the community. And during my visit, I was very, very impressed that this is a community school that actually serves the community, meaning that the people that live in the community. And the goal of no kid being left behind was absolutely in front of me when I came to this place. One of the things that I want to talk about is about this community being one of the few schools in the New York City area that has successfully integrated E75 children in the community. And as an IEP parent, I was very much impressed and very much heartwarmed by what I saw. So that being said, I just want us to take a moment to really thank Principal Kavanaugh for the amazing work that she's been doing in this community and being an advocate, not just for the children, also for children with special needs as well. Thank you very much.
Just here playing musical chairs today. I too want to commend Principal Kavanaugh. I have admired her for many, many years when she was a teacher, a strong advocate, and a firm believer in this work can be done and the whole child model. And so thank you for being here in this world, a part of District 15, and we really appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And moms and dads, we have childcare here. So if you do want to come in person, there's childcare and food and drinks for everybody. So please come on down to our next in-person meeting if you can. I am really excited to report that we had a legislative breakfast at the beginning of January. It was a collaboration with the President's Council. It went very, very well. Lots of people were in attendance, and all of our District 15 City Council members were there, including Rita Joseph. Senators, we had Senator Liu, who is the chair of the Education Committee, and our senators Gunardis and Ewan Chen, who is the Chan, our new state senator. We had the comptroller, Brad Lanter. We had our public advocate there. We had representatives from the PEP, and the borough president opened the meeting for us. It was really fantastic. Sorry. Parents and school leaders were able to voice concerns in a variety of different areas, and the topics ranged from Title I funding to school crossing guards. The following week, there was a swearing-in ceremony for Congressman Dale Goldman at High School of the Arts, and I was able to attend. I am happy to report that there were a number of D15 parents, PA and PTA members and leaders in the audience. One of the congressman's priorities is affordable housing. This is an issue that impacts everyone in District 15. He has been advocating for an investment of resources in public housing to address the necessary repairs, maintenance, and expansion of services. We are going to be sure to share with Congressman Goldman the resolution that we passed recently with other Brooklyn CECs to support these much needed changes to the NYCHA system. Our children and families deserve better than they are receiving, and we are going to keep advocating strongly for changes in these areas, along with Jumani Williams, our public advocate. Superintendent Alvarez is here with us tonight, and I want to thank him for pushing the work forward that Superintendent Scott started. CEC 15 members have been working in small groups with the DOE on implementation and expansion of project-based learning and school-wide enrichment models in D15. Superintendent Alvarez will talk about this later, but all of our APs are being trained and supported to ensure that PBL and SEM are offered to every child. And he will also talk about this very fun showcase of student work that is going to happen at the end of the year. It's really exciting because we have not had an opportunity to have a whole school district community come back together again. We used to do this in the past with the science fair, and it was just so wonderful to hear from our students and learn about their incredible work. So thank you for planning that. We are also working in small group sessions with WXY on next steps around assessment of the D15 diversity plan. So stakeholders throughout the district are being interviewed, and there will be a survey coming soon. We'll hear more about that later tonight. There is a lot going on outside of our district. I was chosen to sit on the Citywide Council for Special Education District Planning and Enrollment Committee, where we are discussing D75 inclusion programs, and we'll be discussing which special education programs are needed or needed to be expanded throughout the city. There is also a citywide wellness committee, which is formed by the DOE every 3 years to review the city's school wellness policy. You can view the policy on the DOE website. This policy is approved by the state and monitored regularly. If you have suggestions for edits, amendments, or additions, please feel free to reach out to us at cec15@schools.nyc.gov, or you can email me directly at camillecec15@gmail.com. A few of us had attended a safety meeting at BHS this week. Nancy has arrived. She was at BHS this evening. We are trying to schedule a presentation with the Office of School Wellness around some problems with vaping and marijuana use and sales of the product in the areas near the schools. So unfortunately, this is an issue that is happening at a lot of schools throughout the city, here in D15 as well. And we are committed to educating our children around the harms of drug abuse. We also met with CM Hanif and a few of the nonprofits and PTA leaders that are helping with the efforts to feed and clothe the 300 families who came seeking asylum. If you would like to donate clothing or food or even gift cards, please reach out to the city council person, Shahana Hanif's office, and they will direct you to the appropriate group leading these. Yesterday, we had the district leadership team meeting. Meredith Kiley was there with us representing the Office of School Food and Nutrition. We are working on the district comprehensive education plan, and a draft version was shared and is available for viewing on the iPlan portal. There is no need to log in. Sometimes this portal can be a little confusing. It's IPLAN. And it is a public facing website. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, you'll see where you can enter District 15 in the drop-down menu. And you can also see the education plans for each of our schools. So feel free to go and explore and read about your school or another school, any of the schools across the city. They are all listed there. They're comprehensive education plans. Okay, so a few of us attended the President's Council meeting last night. Martha Kessler was there presenting on the CCEC elections. There were a number of people in attendance. The President's Council is doing a superb job in their individual schools and throughout the district, supporting each other. We have the best parent leaders here in District 15. And I am expecting a long list of possible CEC 15 candidates. So please consider running for a seat in this year's CCEC election. As Martha stated earlier, the applications are available through your NICSA account. And if you cannot gain access to that, please reach out to your parent coordinator. One last piece of information about school budgets and fair student funding. We have a presentation scheduled for February 28th, so please save the date. We're going to be reviewing the changes to the weights that were proposed recently. If you have any questions or comments, please send them in advance so that we can assure that your questions are answered. The recommendation for these changes actually includes one of our suggestions, I'm happy to say, which is adding a students in temporary housing weight to the fair student funding formula. I am just going to try to squeeze down what I was going to say because we're going to be here all night long. They are also adding a concentration weight to the fair student funding formula. So that means that schools that are serving higher concentration of students with needs are going to receive additional resources to provide high quality education opportunities to their students. There is also ensuring the budget appeals process is responsive to special education programming needs, increasing budget transparency for families, students, and the public. New York City Public Schools are taking steps to address this by improving transparency around school budgets and its own budget through additional, more accessible information available on the DOE website and through its own external engagement process. I know that the budget is still very difficult for many of you to read and understand on multiple pages and trying to cross-reference things. But there are efforts being made to help make this information more accessible to the general public. So that is the end of my report. I am going to pass the mic over to Antonia to give a quick update from the policy committee. Antonia?
Thank you so much, Camille. So as you all know, it's budget season and Kathy Hochul is about to release her state budget tomorrow. This weekend, I was joined by the members of, by a member of CEC 17, CEC 5, and the Citywide Council on Special Ed to give a presentation on how CECs and PTAs can start a charter school accountability committee. We covered the various impacts of charter schools from the community school district level up to the city, state, and federal level. And we explained to folks what are charter revisions and how hearings are conducted. And we shared some anecdotes about our experience advocating for communities with regards to particularly to charter co-locations. And we also celebrated the achievements of our fellow CEC members in Queens in District 29 and 28 and in the Bronx in District 11. So they managed to push back 3 different co-locations. And I attended a Zoom celebration of parent empowerment with the Jamaica NAACP and these community activists. These 3 proposed co-locations were withdrawn from Rochdale Village, Springfield Gardens in Queens, and a 3rd proposal in the Bronx. So their victory is really a victory for parent empowerment across the city, but the fight is not over. I just learned today that Kathy Hochul intends to lift the state cap, reissue zombie charters, and lift the regional subcap on the number of charters in New York City. This all means more charters in New York City, and with enrollment down across the city, including enrollment down at 60% of charter schools, I fail to see how this helps anybody. Our mayor continues to regularly threaten us with looming fiscal crises. And some of our charter schools are even enrolling students that don't reside in the 5 boroughs. So more charters in New York City really drops a fiscal bomb on both the existing charters that are here and traditional public schools. So tonight, after this meeting, I'm going to be working on a call to action. And then I hope parents can join and spread the word to their communities and call Albany and tell Kathy Hochul that we do not want her to lift the cap on the number of charters in New York City or statewide. So thank you so much. And I will turn it back over to Superintendent Alvarez, I guess. No, oh, sorry. No, the Brooklyn North High School Superintendent's report. All right. Sorry about that. Okay.
I hope I could hear me through the.
I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here representing Superintendent Ross. This is my first CEC for District 15, so I'm very excited to be here. Normally you had Cons, but she wasn't able to make it. She does CECs, I do DLTs, but I'm happy always to show, this is how we show love in the superintendent's office. We make sure that we're present and we're here. Well, I hope it's not too late to say Happy New Year. Okay, now. Okay. Okay.
Well, I want to start off by showing something that our colleague Jack, one of our apples, has been working on. This is an interactive map that you will get later with the presentation. You could check all the schools that you have around. It's very interesting, very helpful for us. And as we are in January, well, ending January, this is a time to reflect and look at back our graduations as we approach graduation. Our four-year graduation has increased since Superintendent Ross has been leading the district, preserving through the pandemic. 2019, we had at 87, and now, last year, 2022, we ended up with a 91% graduation rate. Attendance and graduation are tied together. Last year, in total, our district improved from 79% in September to 86% in January. And as June 2022, 40 of our 47 schools were above 80% attendance. 38% of the students were chronically absent. And if we look at District 15, we see that at January 25th, there was 84% attendance. Just a few points with Brooklyn North High School District. So attendance, it's a huge goal. Here is identifying goal 4. And goal 3 and goal 4 are tied together, and I work with my PCs to ensure that our parents are involved in school, which is part of our goal 3, to make sure that our students are present in the school. And the only way that we find that is by creating a good relationship with the parents, maintaining them informed everything that's going on in the school. So by June 2023, our hope is that our attendance will increase by 5% while decreasing the chronic absenteeism by 5% as well. Looking at some of our DCP metrics, we see that in June 2022, ELA regions had an average of 67.8. And by June 23rd, we're hoping that our scores will increase by 3.5 to align with the citywide average. In math, we're hoping that we go from a 60.5 from last year to a increase by 2 points, 2.5. And by June 2023, 100% of district high schools will increase the NYSEGD CCCR score by 2% as measured by the NYSEG College Career and Civil Readiness Index. As mentioned before, we ended 2022 with a 38% chronic absenteeism, and through engaging students in culturally responsive and sustaining standards, aligning instructions with SEL practices, we're hoping that it's reduced by 2% in June 2023. Something that I'm working on with PCs is ensuring that they have a strong engagement plan. Last year, only 63% of our schools had a strong parental plan, but we're gonna work making my way through the schools, seeing what the schools need, how we could bring parents, incentivize them, creating plans and strategies with the PCs and principals. We're gonna support this work and continue with Dr. Golden Muhammad and Dr. Daniel Leakey to create instruction that meets the needs of our students who have been marginalized from school. Through aligned learning outcomes and awareness that provide multiple opportunities for the students to demonstrate what they can do. Here are District 15 school data. We see that the graduation rate is pretty high. Only 2 schools are below 80, which is Cyber Art Studio and Cobble Hill High School. I got the chance to visit Cyber Arts, and I have to say that although they have a low graduation rate, there is a great parental engagement. Parents are in good communication with the parent coordinator. There's always creating events. They're working on a partnership with Brighter Brides to provide our students with fresh veggies and fruits. So they're finalizing that. And I'm still making my way through them. And John J. Law, they're in the process of looking for a new PC. The previous one got promoted to a community associate. I can't recall the name of the position that she moved on. Some of the things that happened during December and the 20th, my brothers and sisters keepers had a convention at the Barclays Center where over 500 students took part. December 16th, we congratulated Weston House, Sunset Park, and Jefferson campus on their Astor Library grant. On the 15th, MSK Empowerment ambassadors and advisors engaged in a self-defense workshop. And on the 19th, Academy for Excellence in Leadership, their MSK and MBK members volunteer to give back to the community by preparing lunch and helping clean up at the Broadway Community Center. Oh, in our last principals meeting, which was on the 24th, we learned how to look at our data and maximize to maximize our success with students, figure out how the students could leave high school with at least 80 score, I'm sorry. Too late for me. I've been working since very early today. But with scores that I call it readiness to help them avoid remedial courses, get them ready. And this is not just about the numbers, but ensuring that all of our students are well taken care of and we could help them guide through success. We had our first parent coordinator and school counselors meeting. We want to increase some of this work, and we're going to have 2 meetings a year where we bring them together and we work on some best practices to serve our families. And as always, you can stay connected to us through our social media. We have Instagram and Twitter now. You can scan the codes, follow us, our website as well, and our newsletter that we send you every month. Any questions, anyone? Yep.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Finally.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have a question about the slot in the 4-year graduation rate.
See if I could go back.
And just a question, and I'm definitely not a criticism at all. For the schools, because it's not just in our district, but
yeah,
there are plenty of schools across the city that are, in those percentages.
Yeah.
And that, and some schools have they have 5-year graduates, right?
Yeah.
So, given not just the losses that we have all experienced during COVID, but just historically, how some students just leave another year, and that's okay. And having another year is much better than dropping out. Like, what is the DOE or the North doing to remove that stigma of a 5-year graduation rate? Because there's so many young men and women who leave school and they feel humiliated and all of the things that go along with not graduating with your peers. And like, we have to take that away for them. We have to do this for them because it's just not fair. And having this sort of 4-year standard, and I know it's coming down from the state and the way things always have been, but we just need to start talking about how that actually relates to reality and what we are doing to still children, not quite adults yet, by labeling them and like kind of almost pushing them out, by not giving them an opportunity to remain in their same school. And so I know we have the transfer schools, but I would really love to explore the idea of having 5-year high schools just as an alternative. Different than
the transfer,
4-year
right?
and then the transfer schools.
So
Because like a lot of children are already behind. When they're in 9th grade, they need to be the support, but they do not need to get left back. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
just need like a little bit more time. They don't need to like have to go to summer school and after school and AIS, whatever. They don't need to be like drilled and have all of this information pushed into them just to meet a 4-year graduation deadline. I just don't think it's fair. And I think that we can do better in this area, and I'm happy to talk to mindset about that. But it's something I can. think
But
about, and I
thank you,
sure.
thank you so much to bringing that to the attention. I'm gonna definitely mention it to Superintendent Ross and see what we could do. I know that they do have the transfer schools in case where they could take more credits in shorter amount of time. But I'm gonna mention it to her, and hopefully for the next meeting, we have an answer or addition to this. Alrighty. Anyone has questions? No? Well, in that case, thank you so much for having me here, and any questions, you could email me.
Thank you so much.
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and very nice to meet you. I am happy to announce the next member on our agenda is King Superintendent Rafael Alvarez.
Good evening, everyone. Just to get to that question though, Camille, I think maybe we could bring in John Sullivan or somebody from his team from transfer high schools. Because everyone thinks that the notion of the transfer high school starts when already the kids pass the 4 or 5 years. It's actually before that. So there are some students who already transition in 9th, 10th grade into the transfer high schools because there's a track of needing more. And so John is really big on talking about the 5 and 6 year graduation, because I don't know if you're aware, but any student who doesn't complete the full graduation requirements by June, irregardless if they go to summer school for just the summer and complete in August, is still considered past the 4 years. So even if they finish 4 years and then they just go to summer school for maybe that one class that they have to take, that's considered past the 4 years. So I think John Sullivan and maybe some others like Fred Walsh, who's dealing with the consortium, the schools that work with the. Oh, all right.
Which is like what got me. as far
Thinking
as
about,
something
yeah.
extraction.
He's been fighting for that for a long time, so I think I think there's something that we could probably do with partnerships with Janice and the community schools as well to figure out how to support that work, so. Hi, how's everyone? I'm just gonna start going through, so thank you for having me at CEC. If we go to the next slide. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Okay, well, we can go to the next slide. Just wanted to talk about a little bit of the celebrations that are going on across the district. I did want to bring up that Congressman now, Dan Goldman from Congressional District 10 did celebrate his inauguration at 656, where the students were actually able to perform. It was a great event. I was there, Camille was there, and several other members of the community, including some of our family constituency and advocacy groups, were also there. It was great to see that particular celebration, but him putting a face to the schools across this district was a great way to really start this particular year for me. And so I just wanted to just show some of the things that are constantly happening across the district, as you see several pictures of different leaders and community members across. If we go to the next slide. So we are honoring and celebrating Black History Month, but just to be reminded that 1 month is not a celebration, that it's all year round, but that this is a month where we especially pay more close homage to the work and the plight of African Americans across our United States and beyond, and celebrating that. There is a link there that you'll be able to get access to that has some resources for teachers at specific schools or parents who want to see some resources for their children around this particular work. And in thinking about that, our next slide, which is really talking about the Happy Lunar New Year. This is just some images that were celebrated at PS 24. I will be at a celebration tomorrow at PS 94, and several schools across our district have been doing particular celebrations. So I just wanted to pay homage to those particular celebrations. Even though the Lunar New Year started in January, it extends itself into February to some extent. It's the year of the rabbit. So if we didn't know. So next slide. I really wanted to talk, and February 10th, they're doing the Chinese Lantern Festival celebration at PS 94. CEC obviously and other members of the community are welcome to pass by and pay homage there. They do an amazing job across the entire building to celebrate this particular day, and you'll learn the history of that particular day. as it relates to the new year itself. Next slide. So I wanted to pay a little bit of special recognition, really sharing best practices on school culture and SEL through a social and equity lens. We had several students from PS 261 who marched with Principal Erica Davis and School Counselor Alicia Bennett and school community to the Borough President's office. As you could see, it looks very crowded because students were doing social justice units, and they were really trying to pay really close attention to what was dear to their heart in terms of things that they were fighting for or wanted to fight for as they were learning in school. And it turned out to be the students and then the communities that was walking around during that particular lunchtime, and they were very strategic at going around lunchtime, started to galvanize so many people that it got so crowded and they had to do some forms of crowd control outside. They had the meeting and everything. So it was a great day for the kids. I had a visit with Dr. Blackburn on January 23rd, where we actually did an intervisitation to visit PS 261. And those very same students were showing us how they're owning student voice from the students' perspective and how they're addressing equity in their particular school. Was great to see. I also wanted to celebrate the Stop and Shop Pantry event at PS 94 with Principal Christina Gonzalez. Over 250 families were serviced with groceries from Stop and Shop to support the particular community in the Sunset Park section of the district. There are a lot of other things that are going on. For example, next slide. More good news. D15 schools off to the citywide spelling bee. We had 3 of the top 6 spots among D15, 16, 23, and charters to go to the citywide spelling bee. Middle school 88, first place. 4th place, PS 24, and honorable mention, PS 131. So that's across the district and around. So I love it. And I heard they give them really difficult words, some that I can't spell. Promise you. Hot topic. Next slide. Neil Singh, as of tomorrow, will be with us as the Director of Student Services and Special Initiatives. He'll be specifically working on community partnerships. He's going to be the attendance manager for the district to support me with that. Events coordinator in terms of other things that are happening across our district, and arts and STEM liaison so that we can start spreading the arts and STEM work across the district. And he's going to help organize that. Tomorrow's his first day, so don't expect all these things to happen right away, but they will be coming to come. And with that, on our next slide, we have our new principal, Jack Chan. That's a much younger picture of him. I promise you, I've seen him. I have to start figuring out where's my younger pictures too, because I remember when I didn't have gray hair. But this is just some information about him. He's an assistant principal that came from New Utrecht High School since 2009, with a total of 24 years of service in the DOE. And I'm reading it for a reason. He has an overview. Oh, I forgot we have translation. My apologies. I will slow down. He oversaw the social emotional learning programs for students, professional learning, after school, social studies, arts program. Recently, until January 30th, the Regents examinations at the school, and has increased accelerated learning through advanced placement courses for all students. Specifically, the school, when he got there, started with 7 Regents courses. By the time he left, had 27 Regents courses offered. He's the president of the Social Studies Supervisors Association for New York City. He has over 24 years of community involvement with community-based organizations such as BCA, servicing students in 8 elementary schools and junior high schools across Brooklyn. He has extensive relationship with non-for-profit and private industries, including the Japanese Society and Chinese Institute. And he's really committed to our diversity plan and the equity work in accelerating learning for all of our students to create welcoming, equitable, inclusive environments. He starts tomorrow, but he's already been doing the work for the past week and a half, almost 2 weeks, nonstop, up to and including meeting with the executive board on Sunday evening, meeting with myself, with the staff and the New York Peace Institute, and then meeting with the parents community constituency last night for a town hall that we had. He's expected to have another town hall with the community next week to resolve some of the questions that weren't able to be answered last night, so that he's showing that he's actively moving the school in a particularly different direction. Just to add to that, superintendent's team is committed to the middle school 51 community to be there on a daily basis until we're ready to step back and allow the school leader to lead on his own, so that he is getting the support in his initial phases of a huge transition that needs to happen at the school. So Deputy Superintendent Lanzalato, myself, and Executive Director Deirdre Keys are going to be there on a consistent basis. For example, Deirdre Keys has been there all week last week. We'll continue this week, which she has, even today. And then we will continue to do our own spot checks as well. I've been walking hallways, visiting classrooms, getting to know students in the particular school itself and having conversations, walking them to class when they're having difficulty getting to class, and having some really interesting conversations about what's going on there. So we're expecting that changes are going to happen, but please give him time, because change can't happen overnight. There's only 24 hours in a day. There's a minimum of 8 hours of sleep that he needs. He has to be able to eat. And there's also a need to be able to try to address the highest priorities. And for me, as he is aware, the highest priority is safety of our students. And so that's where he's focusing on, and we're going to continue to support him with that. So I just wanted to share that. Next slide. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's been going on at BHS, which is our Borum Hill High School, and safety updates. On the 25th, external threat was made, safety protocols were followed, NYPD was called, who was supposed to be handling when external threats occur. On the 26th, we met and planned sessions with BHS administration, Borough Safety Director, the DOE's Chief of Safety, which is Mark Rampersant, and NYPD, where we outlined the response the school will take to ensure safety, communication, and training. There was a huge concern from the parents around the way communication was presented. Please note that when it comes to FERPA laws, we are very strict on what we can and cannot share about any particular student or anything that's going on with a student. While that's not something we want to hear, when it is our own child, we recognize that that's what we would want for our own child, and we have to protect the safety of children. However, admittedly, the response wasn't the strongest response for multiple reasons. And so our job is to figure out where the gaps are and try to move forward. And so on the 26th, a letter was sent by the principal outlining action plans sent to the community. On the 26th and 27th, held 2 teacher staff meetings to review expectations and procedures. On the 27th, GRP protocols, building response team protocols, and Borough Safety Director training had occurred. Again, on the 30th, principal developed a timeline and implementation plan in collaboration with district leadership. That's Deputy Lanzalato, myself, as well as the Chief of Safety, which is Mark Rampersant. On the 30th, professional development sessions with teachers and staff to review those GRP and safety systems again. On the 31st, building-wide safety meeting with entire campus to review protocols. So not just BHS, but the other 3 schools that live in that campus as well. And then safety meetings with families scheduled was this evening as well. And school is going to organize another conversation after the February break and outline several of the professional development that's going to happen, including FDNY and some of the other training that's expected to happen for students, separate for staff, and then for the parents as well. The presentation and action plan will be shared with families. It should have been shared today. If it hasn't, I have copies of it. I will send it to the CEC, and they're welcome to post that, as well as to provide that to the community as a resource. So that's the response, as swiftly as we could, response that we did. I do know that immediately the next day, as I was informed by CEC, and I thank the CEC members for letting me know what was going on. Obviously, around 11 o'clock, a lot of parents were letting me know. The very next day, Deputy Lanzalato was there as I was dealing with MS 51. And then I came over to work with the parents in figuring out what are some next steps. I got some feedback from some parents about the first 3 priority next steps. And that's why you saw some of those things being implemented in this plan. Not perfect, but is moving in the right direction and a direction that we expect to see for our community going forward in terms of communication. Next slide. Summer school affiliation, we're dropping from 12 sites to 6 sites. Why? Because with 6 sites, you have more resources in an individual school for substitutes, for coverage, for having issues. We were having issues getting principals to want to be principals in charge. We were having issues with getting assistant principals, and then we were having issues with teachers. This was not my decision. This was a collaborative decision with the assistant principals advisory and the principals advisory that are elected by their members to be their representatives. And we decided on these allocations of what sites, because now we have our principals in charge who have already committed to doing so, our assistant principals who are supervising, and then we have the backups for the backups. So like if a principal or an AP has to take a few days off, we already know who those coverages are going to be. We're in the process of already identifying who are those teachers going to be as a result of this. In communication with the principals, making shifts, changing things. So for example, 656 has always been by itself. 497 is going to go with 656, particularly the high school especially. Why? Because at BHS, we were having issues finding teachers to be able to teach the Regents courses over the summer. Now we won't have that problem because the two high schools will be together and they'll be able to take those particular regions courses. The only one that I'm not responsible for, as you see on the bottom, is 667, which is Sunset Park High School. That's under Janice Ross. Historically, 136 and 821 have always gone to that site. I'm not going to remove that. I'm going to keep that the same way. I will, once I find out who the principal in charge and AP supervisors are, we will coordinate with a district point. And so if you look at the far left, the district point is somebody from my office that's going to be coordinating to support those schools with particular support. Every principal has been spoken with. Every principal has agreed to do this. And as of right now, all of those sites I have verified as of this evening. I think we got an email around 5 p.m. All these sites will be able to be opened. I know that in the past 15 has been one of those schools that's open. This year, there's construction going on here and 676. So our Red Hook community is going to go over to the other side, but the closest location is PS 146, which is BNS, and that's where they're going to be housed for the particular year. So I just wanted to give that heads up. Moving on. Looking ahead, as a superintendent, I'm thinking about next year. I can't think about the remainder of this year, although I will. I'm thinking about what are we doing next year? And so next year, we're thinking about district universal screeners, as opposed to every school having their own, thinking about where is a universal screener that we can use district-wide for coherence purposes to measure how we're going to provide support and measure what the impact is based on the same assessment versus different assessments. Could it look like for something K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8? Yes. Or could it look like something 3 to 8? Yes. That decision is not coming from me. Principals are going to be presenting the different options, and I'll share with you in a little while. Principals are going to be sharing the different options that are available and having school leaders share the pros and cons of it. They're going to be doing an activity at the principals conference, and then they're going to get together to think about what is the consensus idea of where we need to go with this. Common grading policy, same idea. Thinking about where are we having a common grading policy across the district, whether it's a K to 5 or whether it's 6 to 8 or whether it's K to 8. That's something, again, that the advisory is helping, and then we'll bring to the principals to have discussions with. Professional development plans. Principals are going to be asked to work on professional development plans for their teachers for next year in terms of differentiation around whatever it is that they're going to be working on as a school in alignment to their instructional focus. And we're giving them the criteria of what the expectations are for that. As a result of that, the district is going to be providing every school principal, because we have the budget for it this year, to provide every school principal with 10 days of per diem. 10 days of per diem is 10 subs. So you can use it 1 sub or 10 subs on 1 day. You can use 5 subs for 2 days. You can use 2 subs a day for 5 days, but they will have a total of 10 that will not come out of their budget. And the use for that is to help them develop what they call June planning, but most of them start in April already thinking about next year. Curriculum audits is just us next year looking at the curriculum and seeing if things are evident, not evident, or partially evident around nationally recognized research-based assessment tool to determine where people are in their curricula. So what they will do is share the curricula, we will review, and then through the review, we will give them feedback. The feedback is going to be very somewhat generic to what needs to happen, and then not just you go figure it out, but pointing them to the resources that are going to be available to them to receive, and then obviously people on our team to support with that particular work. So it's an ongoing thing, and it's not an I gotcha, it's an awareness so that we can be more thoughtful about how we're being more inclusive in our curricula. Project-based learning, President Casaretti has already alluded to this. This year, we've been working with Jen Yonkers from Central Office around school-wide enrichment and project-based learning. And we've been meeting with subcommittees from the CEC to discuss our work and our progress. So far, the assistant principals have been getting training. The assistant principals are expected to bring that training back to their school. And the caveat is we're not expecting perfection, and we're not expecting just final product. We're also expecting process. We want schools who have never done this work to start getting involved in doing this work. Because ultimately down the line in 5 years, we want to see that all of our schools are project-based learning and school-wide enrichment schools, right? And so at the end of the year, and tentatively, I'll say it again, tentatively, May 25th is the day that we are looking to use Industry City to showcase every school's work. The idea is that students will present their work of their projects teachers might be able to present their process and how they've been going through the process of this work. We might have some showcase presentations because students might be presenting their project-based learning final projects or dances or artwork. And then that's where Neil comes in, and he's going to be making sure that that room looks like an art gallery and exhibit, so that while we're also looking at PBL, we're also able to see the great work that kids are doing and celebrate that particular work. We'll obviously have a celebration of that and think about what does that look like in terms of a bank of resources that schools across our district can go into a district folder to get access to, which will help them build their next unit for next year. We've been giving the assistant principals time to do this during our AP conferences. As a matter of fact, the February conference is a half-day conference, and it's devoted completely 100% to project-based learning. And then MTSS and data decision-making, about thinking about what does that look like for next year as we're starting this year to start data chats with our school leaders around where they need to focus on in progress. Please note that this year it's only a few schools that we're focusing on. Next year, we'll focus on all schools. We want to get all schools involved in the process. This is not about I gotcha. This is about how do we evolve in our processes and how do we evolve as educators to get even stronger at what we particularly do as a school. Next slide. So an example, this is what's currently offered as selection criteria for the screeners in ELA and in math. So in ELA, everyone in K-2 must do Acadians. That's citywide, right? Smart, right? The city can now figure out where the gaps are as it relates to ELA in grades K-2, as one of the goals is to address reading, right? Students being able to read by 3rd grade, which is also part of My Brother's Keeper, which has been what President Obama set forward to do, making sure that Black and brown children can actually read by 3rd grade, because every research shows that children have to be able to read by 3rd grade in order to be 100% successful. Now, there are other ways to be able to get there, but it makes it a lot more difficult. So we want to make sure that we're intentional about making sure all kids can read by 3rd grade. And so ELA, as you can see, those are the 4 offerings in ELA for grades 3 to 5. And when it gets to middle school, there are only 3 offerings. When it gets to math, 4 offerings again, K to 5, and then 6 to 8 math. And so I just wanted to give you an idea what the school leaders are going to be looking at. If we go to the next slide. They're going to be looking at whether it's going to be Acadians, iReady, Map Growth, and Renaissance. And again, the idea is for us to be on the same page of what we're assessing, because we can't, I'm going to call these different types of fruit, right? So we can't do oranges to mandarins to tangerines, right? Similar, taste the same, but different flavors, right? Macintosh versus Granny Apple versus, I can't remember some of the others, Cortland Apple, right? So they all are the same fruit, but they taste slightly different. It's the same thing with the universal screeners in my perspective. They all measure the same thing, but they measure in a different way, or they're comparative to different things. And so we as a district have to decide what is it that we're focusing on specifically, and which one is going to maximize our ability to provide support to our schools. And so they recognize that. I can tell you all principals are not happy with it. We know that. But when change happens, no one's ever really happy with it, right? Including myself. And I'll put myself in that category. But change is inevitable. And that's the one thing that's constant, right? So if we can go to the next slide. Common grading policy, as I was explaining to you before, what's the reason behind it and the rationale? We have some schools on the borderline of District 20 and District 13. And schools have different grading policies. When they're moving from school to school across the district, it can be very difficult. But more importantly, students who live on that borderline who decide that they do want to possibly get into a screen school in District 20, or better yet, anybody in 15 who's looking to go to a citywide program. It's very difficult to get in if they are not in alignment to the correct grading policies. So for example, the MT and the MP grading policy makes that a level 3 student and not necessarily a level 4 student. And what happens there is you're automatically knocked out of being able to get into specific screen schools, right? And so we have to, while we are a non-screen school, we're going to continue that path through the diversity plan. I still have to make sure that I'm addressing all children in this community and parents respecting their choices as to what they would like for their children. And so from my perspective, we have to go to a grading policy that provides equity for them, not just in 15, but anywhere else they decide to go in this city that they have options to go to, right? And so I have to make that available. I know I'm going fast, aren't I? I guess it's because it's 9 o'clock, but that's okay. I apologize. So our intent is really to create a district-wide policy, a policy that's aligned to standards-based grading so that it isn't comparing apples to oranges from school to school, right? Next slide. This is some of just some ideas of where the key components of a strong professional development plan. Principals are going to be getting this. There's a checklist that helps them start planning as early as April. But if you're like me and some of the principals are, because I've seen it, that type A personalities, they're going to start right away now to start thinking about what that looks like for themselves. That's just a way for preparing for the next year. The hope is that in June, when I meet with principals, I'm meeting with principals and assistant principals. And rather than them being told what's going on, let's celebrate the end of the year, it's really June to say, hey, leaders, this is everything that we're doing for next year. They've already been prepared for it. So the summer, which is what the intent of the summer is that they can prepare and then also go on vacation. Right, because they need to rest. And so that's the whole intent. And we're providing the resources to be able to do that, especially for the schools that are unsure on funding. We have some of that funding. We're going to provide it. Next slide. Upcoming events and deadlines. Next. Opening of 3K and pre-K applications. We all are aware that on January 25th, it did open. I'm not going to belabor this, but February 1st, obviously from 6 to 7, there's PD sessions to support parents with this. It's in all the languages. We will share the PowerPoint slides so that you have access to this. It is in the languages. One of the things we've been fighting is making sure language. I think yesterday, Christine Farrell received something and they wanted her to give it out. And she refused to give it out until we had it in all languages so that it went out simultaneously, as opposed to English first and then the other languages after. That's a big pet peeve of mine. And it's been happening here to some extent with me, and I apologize for that. But part of my thing is I make last minute adjustments to the slides. But at the very least, at least I have translation, and usually within a day or two, we've been putting that out and it's been going on the website. Next slide. Upcoming family workshops. February 2nd at 10 a.m. we have Building Parent Power, Parent Leadership through the district, and that's virtual. February 9th, 6 p.m., successful SLT meetings. And February 16th at 10 a.m., parent-teacher conferences, connecting with your child's teacher. And that obviously we have interpretation in all of our PD sessions so that we, usually it's 3 languages, English and 2 of the other dominant languages. Next slide. And as stated, CEC have put this request on several occasions. And so my February 15th town hall, which I'm going to be at, jumping in and out because we have another PEP and 516's proposal is up. So I just have to be at the PEP. So I'm going to be jumping between 2 screens, but I will be there. And what we're going to have is our SAPIS counselors across 2 SAPIS counselors in our district are going to actually be leading some work around drug prevention strategies and supports for our schools and families. In addition to that, we're already looking at having the SAPIS counselors do some work so that we can do district-wide work with students across different schools for schools that don't have SAPIS counselors, and maybe having joint school sessions to be able to do some of that work to address the concerns from CEC throughout the remainder of the year. It's going to take a while because there aren't as many SAPIS counselors, and remember, there's state staff members who have a specific directive that they have to do as it relates to doing certain number of lessons per class at schools. And I think that's it. Just Q&A. Julie.
Yeah.
That's okay. Sure. Yeah, we've been talking to, that's why I needed all this information ahead. Normally this starts happening in like March, April, and I'm like, no. We started in January. So to your point, the principal's advisory has a scope and sequence for the rest of the year. And the way we design the scope and sequence for their meetings is things that we know we need to address for the remainder of the year in anticipation. So we prepare them for their meetings. When they come to us, they're already prepared. Summer school was one of those things we moved up to January to address. So we've been talking about this in December. We talked about it in January. That's why you're able to see already where we have for summer school. And then today we were able to verify all those sites will be able to be open. The next thing is my busing and my staffing. So what I've done was I've requested the list of retention of teachers for last year and the sites that they were at. So that school leaders could already start talking to those teachers about thinking, are you going to do summer school or not? What I have found in talking to the leaders in year one, right? But what I found in talking to the leaders is the reason why many people haven't wanted to do summer school is because it feels like it's a last minute chaotic thing and nobody wants to be overwhelmed with that in the summer when they feel like they have to slow down just a little bit. And so from my perspective, if we're anticipating what we need to do and we have all our staffing and everything else, everyone's going to feel comfortable in knowing what grade they're going to be doing, what school they're going to be at, how many students they're going to have. And it makes the process easier. And so we've coordinated with that. So our next steps is to work on what is the responsibility of the parent coordinators? What are going to be the responsibilities of the staff at the school? How are we organizing so that we're getting the busing list and everything else set up ahead of time? Who's helping us register our students? Because we do know, and I can say this publicly, that when it comes to registering for Summer Rising, charter school kids get a lot of the seats at our schools, but it's because those schools are actually registering the kids themselves. So my response to our schools is to do the same thing. Register your children. Worst case scenario, students who are not going to attend can be add another student who's on the wait list, right? And so that's the perspective I'm going from. But yes, I'm looking at the busing and working on the bus.
Hey guys, I feel like, we parliamentarian. Anyone want to volunteer? I would, but my battery's dying, so I can't do the signing. Okay. And so should we just reiterate the.
She would have to come to this microphone, or we would have to move the microphone down to her. Or I can throw it down to you. I did.
Can I, if I unmute this, is that
Yeah,
okay?
here, you have it?
I
Okay.
just unmuted it. That was okay? Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm getting a thumbs up. Thank you. So we're just going over the public comment protocol, which will also hold for CEC members. Since earlier in the meeting, we did not go over this protocol. Our parliamentarian is not here tonight, and so we are doing this at this point in the meeting. So I'm sorry to interrupt the question and answer. Tonight's meeting is taking place in person, but will include a public comment period. We will take both remote and in-person comments to gather additional feedback from our families and school community members. You may leave your camera on, or for your own privacy, if you prefer, you may use audio only during the comment period and throughout the meeting. Rules of engagement. When you comment, please respect the privacy of others. Please do not include names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, those attending virtually may raise their hand to comment or indicate in the chat that they would like to speak. Those called upon will be unmuted. If you are attending in person, you must sign the guest attendance sheet and indicate whether you would like to comment. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for comment. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. It is possible that not every comment or question will be given time. So the best way to get your question answered is always to write to CEC at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. CEC members will also be given a comment period. Members will be called upon and are permitted and are each permitted 1 2-minute comment or question. If members do not have a comment, they may cede their time to the chair. All right. So we will go back to public comment. If anyone has a comment or a question in the room, please raise your hand. Or if in the chat, if anybody has a question or a comment, please either raise your hand or indicate in the chat that you would like to speak.
Nancy, was your microphone on just now? Okay, there was a complaint about speaking closer to the mic, but I don't. So your computer mic is on?
It was.
You just turned it off? Okay. You could hear it? Okay.
Okay, if we don't have
on.
any,
That one's on.
all right, Rob Aguilar.
Yes, good evening. Rob Aguilar, District Director from Councilmember
Please.
Alexa Avila's office.
Okay.
So we just
Give me 1
have,
second so we can make sure that the superintendent can hear you.
okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. So we just have a quick announcement. We have free tax prepare service at our office. And this is open to the public at large. You don't have to live inside District 38 to participate. And it's really simple. And I'll put this number out in the chat. You can make an appointment by calling 347-502-6804. And we're going to be offering tax prepare services on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. On Mondays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. On Wednesdays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. as well. And on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I'll drop the number to make an appointment in the chat. And that is all we have for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Margie had put a few in the chat. Maybe.
So families did receive that information yesterday. There was a town hall for that. In addition to that, as I stated before, the principal will be meeting with the community next week at a designated time for a town hall that he'll organize with the PA Executive Board to be able to do so. So just so that we're clear, there were about 122 questions. And about 122 questions, they really boiled down to about 10 questions because some of the questions were the same questions, just written in a different way. Neil will be, Principal Chan will be dealing with the responding to those particular questions as it relates to the school. But in some of the questions that were there, again, there are answers that are long-term that he can't give an answer to and only being there for 3 days. And so what we're trying to do is ensure that what we can answer, we will answer. What can't be answered will be answered in subsequent meetings that he'll have with the community as he goes along this particular school year. So there will be further conversation with the community to address a lot of the questions, but some of the questions can't be answered right away. For example, in the first 3 days, he can't determine whether or not we're going to place homeroom and lockers back at the schools yet, because a lot of things had already been done to make that quick transition is not something that's going to be at the immediate, for me, at least as a superintendent, that's not what his first charge has been. His first charge has been to make sure that the school is a safe and welcoming learning environment. And while that might be part of being a safe and welcoming learning environment, my first priority is the safety of students first, that he has to address some transition from classes, things that might be external to the building and how he's going to set up systems and structures for that. And those are the things that he'll be able to speak to next week, at least some of those things. So we are aware of the questions that were sent by the executive board. It was sent to me yesterday as well as today. But some of the answers to some of the questions were already answered yesterday. To write out the responses for every single answer to 120 questions, I don't think is going to help address the concerns that are happening in the school. He's going to spend more time typing to respond to these questions, as opposed to having a genuine conversation with the community and taking into account what needs to be addressed over time, because it's not going to happen overnight or in a week. That's impossible. Yeah. Anything else?
We also request information on from school, to dates, like,
To access the results of the, for next school year? Yeah, that hasn't come out yet. We're waiting for the middle school admissions office to be able to provide those dates. What we have committed to, and I've stated on several occasions, I stated to DLT yesterday, and I've also stated in the past, that as a result of what some parents' concerns have been when I've done the individual visits of schools, when we were going through understanding whether or not we wanted to be lottery or screen, one of the things I learned from some parents in some of the rooms is that they feel that the response to the parents around middle school admission varied from school to school to school. What we have decided to do, and we've committed to doing, is creating a slide deck, which my team reviewed today. My supervisor, social workers, as well as my student service manager, have already been working today, physically today at 11 o'clock this morning, on coming up with a team of guidance counselors and social workers that were going to work on creating a slide deck that was going to be expected to be used across the district, so that the message is going out the same for elementary to middle school and for middle school to high school admissions processes. And that way the process goes the same for all schools, so that it's not a different message from school to school. Yeah. Okay.
We'll do a roll call vote. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote of CEC members for questions and comments. Sorry, a roll call, question comments from CEC members, and we each have 2 minutes. Camille Casaretti?
I'm good. Thank
Am I next? Or is Antonia next? Who's next?
It doesn't matter.
Oh,
I don't know.
I have no questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question about the grading, standardizing the grading, policy. It's just whether you're referring to, the way that teachers grade, or the actual, grades. I'll just say that my concern is, that my child goes to a school that uses mastery-based grading. And it's been amazing. I mean, every parent that goes through that, and of course, it's being rolled out in a lot of schools across the city because it's so popular. So are you talking about changing that? Or
No.
are you talking about sort of what do teachers look at in terms of the work?
Part of it is
to
what do
create
teachers
grades?
work, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do teachers use to do that? That's
Yeah.
that's part of it. The
Yeah.
second part is that the city already has 4 to 5 different ways in which you can enter grades into STARS, which is a system where the city now tracks the grading of particular students. That's also what we're talking about.
Yeah.
What does it look like there? There are several schools, for example, BNS, who do a full narrative way to grading to their grading policy, but they
Right.
still add the grades as well into STARS.
Right.
This is really to think about what is the unified thing, because
Yeah.
for example, I don't want to give the school, but there's an example of one school that uses the MT, MP grades.
Right.
That prevents, if you didn't grade with the MT and MS, which just came out this past summer, then you are automatically at the highest level you can get was like a 3.
Yeah.
That already removes kids from the ability to be able to get into the screen specialized schools.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't want to deny that right
Right.
to any student who lives in
Yeah.
District 15, who has the right to apply to a citywide program, or the right to apply to middle schools that are bordering our district, to take away their parents' choice
Right.
and opportunities to decide what they want for their children.
Right.
So from a from a fairness and equity perspective, I have to be able to give access
Right.
to that.
So
I'm
in theory,
trying to-
there could be like a
Yeah,
translation.
absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's what
Yes.
happens at
Mhm.
442.
Yes, I'm aware. Yes, I'm aware.
Percentage.
Some of the
Yeah.
principals have already brought that to my
Right, right,
attention.
right.
I'm
Okay.
fully aware with
Great.
that. I know exactly what
Okay.
you're talking about, especially the mastery base.
Right, right,
I am
right.
in favor of the mastery base.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
Oh,
that
that's
will-
great.
Yeah, no
Can
worries.
I
about
have
it.
another question since two people said they didn't need their question?
No,
Yes.
You have 2 minutes and you've
Are you
only used
serious?
one,
You still
so,
have a minute.
sure.
Okay, oh, I do. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So when you're talking about the district screeners.
yes.
Of course, we already have the state tests,
Mhm.
and then we're already doing these screeners.
Mhm.
So in theory, if you had a citywide screener and a state screener that aren't the ones that you choose, would there then be a district, city, and state screeners?
no.
Okay.
The city screener is what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
As the district, each school selects which screener they're going to use.
Okay.
The universal screener is
Okay.
not measuring standards based.
Yeah.
The universal screener is only measuring foundational skills within the grade level that a student's in. So ideally, for example, in literacy, there are 6 pillars now of literacy, one of them being writing, but there are other 5 main pillars of literacy. It's measuring a student's ability, or supposed to measure a student's ability to be able to be successful in that grade with the foundational skills that are necessary to address that grade. The state standardized assessment is a federal guideline in which schools get funding in order to measure whether or not students are mastering grade level standards. 2 totally different things. The issue we also have in District 15 is that historically, a lot of our parents opt out of the state standardized test. This doesn't bode well for us as a district holistically for multiple reasons. A lot of the children or families that, and this is an equity and disproportionality issue. A lot of our Hispanic and Black families have a tendency to take the state exam, while a lot of our white families do not. Our Asians always take it because parents want to see where their kids are so that they can relate that to how kids are going to do in the future. They use that as a measuring tool to determine how their children are going to do, because if you can measure 4th grade, you can anticipate 8th grade. And if you can anticipate 8th grade, you can anticipate the trajectory of college readiness and college bound readiness, right?
Well, not my kid.
Right,
but
yeah.
anyway.
I got it. But I'm giving,
Yeah.
the spectrum of what
Yeah.
happens, and it's not everybody, it's percentages,
Yeah.
but overwhelmingly. And so what ends up happening is when students don't take standardized tests, which I'm not a big proponent of standardized tests either, so let me just be clear there,
Yeah.
right? But I do see the importance of doing it. While I don't agree with it, I still see the importance of doing it because we have to figure out where our kids are at some point. And so for me, and I'm trying to move towards, I'm hoping that Commissioner Betty Rosa does move towards the project-based approach, which is why we as a district have been starting the PBL and SEM work, because it's my belief that if we continue to start this work, when kids are ready to take what we call PBATs, which high school students have taken in my former district, my high school was a PBAT high school. It proves to be more effective because you're really measuring your kid's ability. It's a lot harder for students, to be honest with you, but it's a different measurement that allows kids to own their work, which is different than a test where I have to check off answers to see if I'm right or wrong and not wondering if I'm being tricked in a response or whatever. I think that the state has gone and done measures to remove that barrier that we had before. For example, we used to be a time test. Now we're on time, right? And there's additional resources and questions have changed and equitable questions have been added. So I think that the test now, the standardized test, is more fair and more equitable than it was in the past. But
Because of the opt-out movement.
yeah, and I totally give that credit to you, right?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna take that away. I
Yeah.
agree 100%.
Yeah.
But it has given more accessibility to be fair, a fair exam, right? And I think it's important for us to figure out where we are as a district. However, I'm hoping for changes to happen too. I've been working with the state to try to get project-based learning and bring PBATs as low as 3rd grade to 8th grade. And I've even offered to be one of the districts that pilots this from 6 to 8 first. But it's going to require a lot of work because it goes back to that mindset of what you shared earlier about mastery-based teaching, which is really the kids owning the standard and proving that they know the standard by presenting over time the work that they've learned. So I agree with you. So, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Nana, do you have a question or comment? Alfred, do you have a question or comment? Sure. Okay, I'm next. Thank you, Superintendent Alvarez, for a very detailed presentation tonight. And I will address and question, let me set the timer on myself, excuse me. All right, there we go. I will question and address related specifically to BHS, but really thinking more widely than just BHS. Tonight, parents at the BHS meeting, two things came up. One was that it was great that the principal gave a present, and also more of the staff gave a presentation on what a shelter in means, what a lockdown means, what a hold is. And I think that these are it's devastating to me that this is the reality that we live in. I think it's devastating to all of us, but I think also as a parent, it's very helpful to understand what the DOE policies are around each of these things. I think that where the challenge really lied, and where many parents were concerned, is that certain teachers were following different protocol. And so different kids were reporting back to their families that they were having different experiences. And so then my question becomes not looking just at BHS, but really looking at our whole district. What can be done for teachers to know, like, that how overall is there, what kind of training do teachers have? And then secondly to that, in my last 30 seconds, is parents' concern about a potential threat and not being able to receive information about that threat. And that, again, it was the principal very explained under FERPA, absolutely, we must maintain students' privacy. The question that kept coming up is what amount of information can parents receive about a potential threat?
Right. So let me go to your first part. So first of all, every single teacher, let me correct myself. Every single staff member gets trained at the beginning of the year, every single year, no matter how many years you work in the DOE. I myself have to go to that training every single year. It's a PowerPoint slide. We have to get a certification after to show that we have completed the general response protocols. In addition to that, every single school goes through multiple drills. They go through lockdown drills where parents get notification that the lockdown drills, they happen twice a year. They get shelter in drills, and they also get soft lockdown and hard lock. Correction, not hard lockdown, because hard lockdown is an imminent threat, right? Staff go through this every single year. Every staff gets a copy of this that's posted in their classrooms that are supposed to be in their particular classrooms. Teachers have this documentation. They have emergency folders that are created for their individual classrooms so that they have rosters when they have to exit buildings. All these protocols are put in place. Parents can hear through this through their constituency. PTA president is always part of the school safety meetings. Okay, safety agents are part of the safety meetings. If it's a campus site, all principals on the campus are part of the safety meeting. UFT, part of the safety meeting. DC 37 members, part of the safety meeting. There's representation from all to discuss not only the safety at a particular school, but whether or not there has to be retraining or reconnection to the general response protocols at the end of every single lockdown or lockdown drill that's had. Schools are supposed to have the BRT get together to discuss what went well, what didn't go well, because obviously things are not always going to go well when things are in a panic. And so that's why the drills occur, so that you can identify where the gaps are and try to address the gaps. Certainly in this particular situation, one of the gaps for instance, my concern was the hold. The hold was only for BHS, but digital tech is in the building, Success Academy and D75. That was a protocol that was not followed. Was that addressed? Absolutely. That's why I was there the day that you saw me, to address those particular occurrences with the school leader and hold the school leader accountable for the actions or the lack of actions that were taken. But this is the reason why those drills happen throughout the year. If we're saying that what we're asking, if I'm hearing correctly, what we're asking is, how do we continuously revisit this? then that's a conversation I can have with senior leadership about what do we do outside of just the protocols, because they do the drills for this particular reason, for the exact reason that you're saying, so that people don't forget what they're expected to do. So what happens is, as adults, just like children, or just like the leadership, sometimes people panic. And that's the whole intent behind going through these drills, so that when you panic, where were the mistakes, right? We've had walkthroughs in buildings where teachers are like, all the doors, they don't lock. I haven't been able to lock my door. And when I find that out, I send Carmine from school facilities. I want to make sure all the doors lock, because that's a protocol that has to be put in place. So when they do a drill and a door is not locking, I'm notified. When I find out, I immediately work on ensuring that school facilities makes sure that those doors are locked. But it's the onus is really the school leader of ensuring that they're following the protocols that have already been given. My job is really to ensure that those protocols have been followed, that the drills have been committed to, that no one's out of compliance, because this is not just DOE compliance, this is FDNY compliance, this is also state compliance requirements. Every single principal goes through training where they get FDNY certified for these things as well. So in addition to what the school is expected to do for the staff throughout the year, principals get an FDNY card that certifies them as knowing all these particular protocols, because every other year they have to get them renewed. And every other year they go to this training that's a full day training in the summer that they're required by law to attend, and they have to complete the whole course. So it's no, I have to skip out. They also have to participate in activities that show. In some districts, when I was in District 7, I coordinated with FDNY, NYPD, and the city to do a active shooter practice at one school site in the summer, where we invited several principals to participate. I haven't been able to do that in this district. That's what I'm working towards getting. But that, you could imagine, is far few and in between, because they have to coordinate those efforts with the different agencies, and that can sometimes be difficult. But if that's an ask, I can certainly work towards that and report to you what the response is from Central as to whether or not this district could have something in the summer to practice that event of a possible active shooter. Now, the second part of the question was about the response to parents and communication. We are to communicate what's going on in terms of, hi, not hi, but we've had here at BHS, we had to do a shelter in. We're not going to explain why. Because we're not going to give that information. We're just never going to give that information for a lot of reasons. Kids are going to point out what they point out. I'll give you a perfect example. I was MS-51. A kid actually passed out. Okay. And by the time the day was over, people were saying that the possibility of the student actually committing suicide. That was not the case. It was a passing out from throwing up. So we're very careful at what information we're going to share, period. So what the information is going to be, if it's a shelter in, we're sheltering in because of an external threat. External threat could be anything. There could be a fire across the street. There could be someone screaming and fighting. We feel we don't want to dismiss during a screaming and fighting battle because we hope that it doesn't happen, but that somebody ends up pulling out a weapon and trying to do something. So that's what a shelter in is. Let's bring everybody in. Let's lock the door until we're told we can release. We won't release. That's what it was called, right? Then you have the lockdown, soft lockdown. That's when somebody's in the building. A kid may have been moved and lost themselves in the school, or a third grader didn't come back to the classroom. We're going to do a soft lockdown so we can find where this third grader is. That's not an imminent threat. And then you have a hard lockdown. Heaven forbid you're calling a hard lockdown. That means there's an imminent threat of somebody in the building that's been visible, and we don't know what he's going to do, or she's going to do, I should say. We don't know what that person's going to do, right? But so the information that you're going to get in a soft lockdown or a hard lockdown, you're probably not going to get imminent information, because my priority as a school leader is to ensure the safety. So I have to do whatever I have to do to keep everybody safe. Obviously, people are going to find out through, again, social media is like a curse in itself, but also a savior in itself. So it's like a double-edged sword, right? You're going to get the Citizen app alert, and you're going to get this. Working in the South Bronx, I got the Citizen app alert every 5 minutes. And a lot of it had to do with in front of my schools, outside of my schools, or even in my schools on a daily basis. And that's not the culture that we're used to in District 15, but we are now living in a culture where social media is creating a huge frenzy for all parents and concerns on a constant basis, what we're seeing with mass shootings across the country, in suburban, rural, and urban communities. And so I know that there's a heightened vigilance, especially since we ourselves as District 15 have had an actual attack on our subway system right by several schools. So I get that there is a huge heightened alert and concern, and I'm glad that parents are bringing it to the attention. I am, but there are certain things that are not going to be notified. So we're going to let you know this shelter. What needs to happen and will continue to happen going forward as we're reassessing how we're communicating is informing that the shelter-in is happening, everyone's safe, letting people know when it's been lifted and why, who's lifted it, and going through the process of letting you know at least that we're in these steps and everyone is still safe, because I think that can release some of the concern when I receive a shelter in and then I don't hear for about hours later that it's been lifted. No, I need to know what's going on. Shelter in, external threat. Is the threat still imminent? No, the threat's not imminent. We're just waiting for assessment, right? And then at the end, we've lifted it, everyone's safe, we're back to being in our normal situation. Because that's our responsibility as a Department of Ed. NYPD's responsibility is far different than ours. NYPD is to determine criminal intent. NYPD is to do their due diligence of what may or may not happen in terms of an investigation. And we're not allowed to speak to that because NYPD owns that. So when that happens in a school, for like example, at BHS, when it did happen, once we did everything we were supposed to do, that's it for us. The rest of it is now NYPD. So when NYPD may or may not have followed through with whatever protocols they did or did not follow through, that's something that the parent constituency, as they did with the school community, should be then doing with the local precinct that address these particular concerns in terms of going forward. And I think that there's sometimes a confusion that the DOE is also part of NYPD, or that we're supposed to respond to certain things in terms of investigation like NYPD. Once we pass it over to them, our responsibility is just the safety of our children while they're in our building and also within our peripheral of our school. And that's what we did. I think to Nancy, to your point, one of the issues that we did have was that the communication was too far in between giving information that created a panic for parents that, in my view, was unnecessary. And we reevaluated that with Chief of Safety and several others to come up with a plan going forward. And I think that the response that BHS did with giving all these things are really important. We as a district are starting to think about what do we do to make sure that our schools are having conversations about see something, say something, right? Because kids kind of had an idea of what was going on, but were afraid to tell anybody anything that they kind of had information about. Had they been able to do that, we would have known about it sooner and addressed it a lot sooner, right? But then what happened was kids were texting their parents, which is a whole nother issue that I have when students are able to freely have their cell phones in their particular classrooms to be able to have access to, because by the time you get the message, you probably got a different message than the principal even received at any given moment. And so you may have known about something before the principal even knew what was going on. That's a problem. That's a huge problem in a school community, because there's a lack of trust. And there's a lack of ability for people to feel comfortable to share with leadership or even their teachers. And that just says that people are afraid to speak up. And in some cases, that has to do with the age group that we're talking about. This whole thing with snitches and this whole thing with telling on somebody. And if I tell on somebody and somebody finds out, then I'm going to be picked on for the rest of my time here. And do I want to take that calculated risk as a young a young adolescent student? I was gonna say middle, I'm thinking about myself, right? I apologize. But do you see what I'm saying? And so like, I want to make sure that we're working on that. And so I have been talking about how do we address that? As again, your CEC members have already shared with me about the drug situation, and immediately February 15th, I've already gotten people to start talking about that. We're thinking about getting the SAPIS counselors to do work, even though they only support certain schools, to do PD for all of our schools, so that we are addressing the drug issue with each school in our district with an assembly or something similar to that, right? And so as things come along, I can start addressing, but to have the ideas of everything has to be addressed, if I don't see something happening consistently or on a constant basis, it's not something I'm going to address because I can think that it's isolated and I'll address it with that individual school. But if there are things that are constantly growing and festering, that's where, as a superintendent, I could address it with all school constituency. I hope I answered your questions. Okay, cool. All right. Sometimes I feel like I don't answer the question. All right. Anything else? Nothing? Okay. All right, come in. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But, I have heard a lot of. Actually allowing parents to ensure adulting through side doors.
Yeah.
Not going through the front
Mhm.
door, not signing in secure space that I have this space.
Yes.
And,
I've
that
addressed.
is not okay.
Yep, yep.
That is not safe for anybody, and I just wanted to let everyone know that.
Yep. Yep. And I'm glad you bring that up, and I'm going to address that directly. We met with Chief of Safety, as I said, Mark Rampersant, and we immediately have a school governance office that's coming in when there's a campus site. School governance comes in to work with the school governance. The principal called an emergency meeting where she met with all the leaders of the different schools. That was not only reiterated, but that was also put on the safety minutes to address the concern of the charter school, leaving the side door open for, or turning alarms off, for example, on the side door. That was addressed. That has been documented, and that has been all the way to the top. And I've actually dealt with that directly as well. So those concerns that come up have been addressed as soon as they were brought, and they were brought to me on the day that you saw me. That very same day, an emergency meeting was called, and I think they met 2 days later to address all of those concerns. So those shouldn't be concerns anymore. And Principal Schmager knows that if they do become an issue, that she can send that report to me. I will forward it to senior leadership, and they will address that directly with the directors of Success Academy. So, yeah, absolutely. Yep. Mhm.
Safety, but that's safety as far as in.
Yeah. Yep. The short answer to that is that's NYPD, school safety title, but they're employees of the NYPD. We don't even hire them. They don't even go through our screening or anything. School crossing guards are through New York City Police Department. And we do know that there's a shortage. They have flyers, which we've been working on getting those flyers to our parent coordinators for people who are looking jobs to be school crossing guards. But we do know that there's shortages. There's 4 schools in particular that I'm completely aware about that we're working to try to get crossing guards. There's just not enough across the city, let alone this borough, and in this district. The areas where I'm having the most difficulty is a little bit in Kensington, right? There's 839 and 130 are having issues with crossing guard. PS 94 is having an issue with the second crossing guard. I know in Red Hook, we've had an issue with the crossing guard over here between 15. We have an issue with crossing guard for PS 124 4th Avenue. There's been issues with that. We've had consistent issues with some of these particular schools. Oh, and 230. But 230, we were able to figure out. In some cases, there used to be 2 crossing guards, and now there's 1. And what the response we're getting from NYPD is they don't have enough. They're calling out absences. They don't have coverages for absences. So they are actively looking. But while they are actively looking, the DOE, well, not the DOE, the NYPD is also actively looking for school safety agents. The problem is we get 250 people through a class. They have to be divided by all 32 districts. And by the time those people get placed, the ones that are placed are replacing the ones that decided to leave to work at corrections because they can make more money at corrections. And because they have the experience as safety agents, the training is a lot easier and cost effective for the corrections department. So we either have to figure out how to pay more to our school safety agents so that they're equivalent to the rate that corrections officers make, so that they can make our schools safe as well. Or we have to do a better job at figuring out how we're recruiting safety agents for our schools. But again, all of those issues are not a DOE issue, even though they impact the DOE, because those are all NYPD. And there lies the issue sometimes, right? That's a really big issue that we have. They're not our agency. So we're working across agency, but that doesn't always work so well. Because, well, you could imagine why.
Thank you, Superintendent Alvarez.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your dedication and staying so late.
No worries.
You are welcome to stay, but you feel obligated.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not sure.
It's here. It's here. I'll move it back.
So the next item on our agenda is the review and vote on our budget amendment. This is actually a CEC, the budget amendment, not a deal. Unfortunately, we are not voting on that. Nakia's not here right now. Unfortunately, at work, but because she is unbelievably better. In your folders, you all can see the proposed amendment. So what we are doing here is moving some money around based on, hold on. So first of all, we were discussing the event that Superintendent Alvarez is organizing for May. And they are in need of some funding for that event to help support it. So we were moving money around. We are getting rid of the $2,000 for the P card because we're not going to be able to actually get the P card in time anyway to use it. So the 2,000 would be brought down, I guess adding that into member reimbursements. The share fare for project-based learning, we would like to contribute food for 300 people. And the sanctioned incentive program line was removed because even though we were told in the beginning there was a way to do this, now we are being told that there is no way to do this. So we're just going to take that line item away. And where is the meeting expense line?
It's right with member reimbursement and meeting expenses are both under one object code.
Oh. We've always separated that. Okay, I guess since it's the same object code, that's probably okay. So the proposed new budget is at the bottom. But I wanted to flag something that we kind of talked about previously for technology. I really think we need our own iPad for these meeting purposes and not borrowed iPads that are harboring a liability to us. So should we put another $1,000 into the technology line? Denise, where are we with the 4,500 for technology? Where we are with the balance? So we do still have another $1,000. Okay, so then maybe we don't need to move anything else. Okay, so then we'll just
leave this budget amendment proposal the way it is unless somebody else has something they would like to ask a question on. And we'll have one more opportunity to change this before the budget closes entirely. And,
I don't believe so. I
What do you
think
mean?
this is it. I
No.
thought it was February, it was the first week of February.
when is our meeting?
Shanice, what? February 8th is the last
When
time,
is our meeting?
16th.
Right, okay. Well, everyone, I guess this will be the last and final budget amendment unless we have another emergency meeting.
For this event that you're finding?
It would be here in the 8,000. Oh, because the meeting expenses. Oh, yeah.
So do we vote on it?
And, Shanice, is $250 for travel expenses and have you spent $100? Only 25, okay, so we'll do that for now. Yeah. And could we post this on the Zoom so people are seeing it?
I can share, I could pull it up and share my screen maybe. Let me see.
So I will just read aloud what the new proposed budget would be for CEC 15, and we have a total budget of $25,000 a year. 8,000 of which would go to member reimbursements and meeting expenses, and meeting expenses could include food, water, what else? Tablecloth, decorations, if we needed those things, like basically anything that would be used for meetings. And then $4,500 for technology. So far, we have purchased 2 desktop computers, a tape recorder, headset. Could we get like the speaker also, or that was okay. That was $1,000 for office supplies. So that's like paper, pencils, staples, all of these things. $250 for administrative and travel expenses, and this is because we are traveling from the District 15 office with a lot of heavy equipment and it's not practical in cases trains. And $250 for communication apps and templates. This covers our website fees. $1,000 for contractual services. We talked about if we would need interpretation services or legal fees. So far, we haven't needed to use that. And $10,000, which is set aside for a salary increase for our administrative assistant, because the DOE is offering an abysmally low and unfair salary to the administrative assistants. And so while we argue for that increase across the board in this position, we are setting aside $10,000 of our money for our administrative assistant. So,
Motion to vote on the amended budget for 2023.
you, Nancy. Thank you, Vanessa, for second.
All right, Camille Cazzaretti,
I approve.
Antonia Ferraro, yes, Tia Shellsteed.
Yeah.
Nana Poku Ajukum,
I approve.
Alfred De Angelis,
Yeah. Yes.
Nancy Randall. Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka. Okay, the budget has been approved.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And, all right, so old business, second review of draft bylaw amendments on hybrid meetings. I will hand this over to Tia.
Guys, I did view a draft, I swear, where I said the public body. We can dig it up. But otherwise, since we presented it already, I think that we can vote on it, right?
No,
We presented it up about.
thought we didn't have time.
Oh, we didn't.
Mhm.
I was there. Oh, so do we need to read it out loud?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. CEC 15 resolution on hybrid meetings. Whereas by passing chapter 56 of the laws of 2022, the New York State Legislature amended section 103 of the Open Meetings Law. And whereas chapter 56 adds section 103A of the Open Meetings Law, permitting CEC 15 to authorize its members to attend meetings by video conferencing under extraordinary circumstances. And whereas section 103A 2A requires CEC 15 to adopt a resolution following a public hearing authorizing the limited use of video conferencing under such circumstances. And whereas section 103A2 allows for hybrid meetings by requiring that a minimum number of members are present to fulfill the public body's quorum requirement in the same physical location or locations where the public can attend. And whereas section 103A2C requires that members be physically present at any such meeting unless such member is unable to be physically present at any such meeting location due to extraordinary circumstances, including disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, or any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes the member's physical attendance at such meeting. And whereas in accordance with section 103A2D, any members attending by video conference must, except during executive session, be heard, seen, and identified while the meeting is being conducted, including but not limited to any motions, proposals, resolutions, and any other matter formally discussed or voted upon. And whereas section 103A2G requires that any meeting where a member attends by video conference be recorded, posted to CEC 15's webpage within 5 business days, and transcribed upon request. And whereas section 103A2H requires that members of the public be permitted to attend and participate, if authorized, in any meeting by video conference when a member attends by video conference. Be it resolved that CEC 15 authorizes its members who experience an extraordinary circumstance as described above and further defined by any rules or written procedures later adopted to attend meetings by video conference. 1, as long as a quorum of the members attend in person at one or more location open to the public. 2, as long as the member can be seen, heard, and identified while the open portion of the meeting is being conducted. And 3, as otherwise permitted under chapter 56 of the laws of 2022. And be it further resolved that CEC 15 shall create written procedures further governing its use of video conferencing by its members in compliance with chapter 56 of the laws of 2022. I think we decided when we talked about this after the last meeting, now I'm remembering, that maybe we require a vote to affirm that the member who's attending by video conferencing is indeed experiencing an extraordinary circumstance. What do you think, Camila? I think, well,
Just like we vote whether or not they're getting an excused absence. You know what I mean?
right, so I think that's where this comes in.
Yeah,
Like-
but I'm just saying, like, does everyone want that when we do rewrite the bylaws? Do we want to make that a thing? That it be-
Like, I'm sort of seeing it as 2 separate issues.
Okay.
Because like we would first have to decide, do we want to do hybrid meetings at all? And then
Oh, okay.
secondly,
I
we
see.
have to decide,
okay.
so once we decide yes or
Yeah.
no, then we would
Yeah.
figure out what are the written procedures. So that's where some of my questions come into play.
Okay.
Because this is saying that in compliance with chapter 56, the body shall create written procedures, but it doesn't say what the time frame of that is. So in theory, we could be hybrid. And so if we don't collectively decide on a time frame, because the time frame's not given, it doesn't say within 30 days or, you know, so then like I would want to know what our plan is and feel like we're committing to that before this. And then another thing is in this other whereas it's saying that any members attending by video conference must be heard, seen, and identified. I know because Yvonne was not able to be here today, I noticed he was in the Zoom.
Yeah,
And so I saw his name there.
yeah.
But that's something that we should be aware of, that like our camera should be on at all times.
Yeah.
If we are going to do that. And I know some of us do not. leave
Yeah,
our-
like
their
me.
Cameras on at all. So
Yeah.
like we just need a group commitment to that as well.
Yeah.
And then regarding the first page, second from the bottom, whereas it's saying per section 103, we would have to post the video conference within 5 business days. I think we're doing that anyway, but
Sometimes we don't.
sometimes we don't. And like it, for the live meetings, we're supposed to post draft minutes within 10 days.
Yeah.
Which we're not doing that either.
Yeah.
But we are definitely posting the video within 10 days. So we would just have to really tighten up our posting. And so those were some things that I.
Yeah, I
wanted
mean,
to
it's in the
highlight.
law, so.
Yeah.
So do you want me to draft the bylaw? Well, first of all, should we have a vote of whether we want to do hybrid meetings at all?
We should do we need to do a comment.
Oh,
Yes, we should do a public comment.
Yep. Does anybody in the Zoom or in the audience have a comment or question regarding this resolution that was just read? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, there being none from our public. Do any CEC members have questions or comments? It seems not.
Well, just,
Antonia?
are we asking for just general concerns about going hybrid? Is that what we're talking about?
About this resolution,
Okay.
before we potentially motion to vote, do you have any questions or concerns about this resolution?
Yeah, I would. I definitely have some concerns about going hybrid generally. I don't know how you ensure a quorum at every meeting. I think the extraordinary circumstances is incredibly vague, and for us to vote and determine whose circumstances are extraordinary, it just injects conflict into the council. And I am also concerned that the Zoom transcription is terrible, and the AA will have to spend time, resources making that something that can be digestible, because it's just a bunch of gibberish a lot of time.
Well, transcriber upon request. So.
True.
But we definitely settled about that.
Those are my 3 issues.
Yeah, I guess we were talking last time that maybe, what is the point of allowing them to do it virtually?
Well, they can vote. They can vote.
Yeah. But we would still have to have
6.
actually 7.
7.
12 members going forward.
Are they going to change the quorum?
Yes.
Are they gonna change the quorum to 7? Yeah, you'd have to have 7.
Once we're 12. In the next term, but it's just, I mean, we're passing this and then it's gonna roll over.
Right. I'm tempted to just motion to table it, but I would say that I think that it's very complicated because of the issues that you raised, Antonia. And I also think that it's a beneficial thing to have the ability to have people be hybrid. And so I would love to find a solution. I guess my question is, does it make sense to pass this resolution and then we deal with the specifics of it? Or must we first know the specifics before we pass the resolution?
I mean, I'm of the mind to come up with the written procedure and discuss what that looks like before we
First.
do this. And another thing that I think, if we were hybrid, I really feel like it's necessary for all of us to have computers. I don't like it, the idea of it, but like, it just doesn't make sense that, you know, we're not all in front of the computer if we're passing, it's kind of ridiculous, it's taking up time, it's not really recording things.
I think you guys might have to talk louder.
Exactly, and we have to talk louder.
No, I mean, like right now, you might have to
Yeah,
talk louder.
that's what I mean, like if we had computers, each one of us in front of us, and we had figured out how to do this headset and the sounds and all of that, then we could actually conduct a meeting on the computer with a full audience, and it would probably work. So like, what I'm saying is, we're missing a lot of things that we need for it to flow. It's
Right.
like not flowing that well right now,
Right.
but it's something.
Right.
You know, let's not let good be the whatever.
Right,
or
right, right.
Whatever that is, but,
So, sorry, I said table the motion. There is no motion on the table.
There's no
So,
motion.
maybe we should move on since it's late and ask if anybody.
yes, then ask.
I have a proposal, perhaps, we could add to the language of, at the end, the last clause, resolve that the CEC 15 shall create a grading procedures further governing and use video conferencing by its members in compliance with chapter 56 of the law of 2022 if such grading procedures are determined before such deadline. So this only passes if we actually have met the deadline on, and automatically passes if we met the deadline on the grading procedures. That way we don't have to vote on it anymore, it's gone, but it's not actually into effect, doesn't go into effect unless we have the procedures in place. Just to kind of like.
So we don't have to do the resolution again. Well, we could just put the, what, you know, we could put the written procedures at the end, you know, and resolve these will be the procedures.
Can I motion to not motion? Can I motion for us to move on?
I'm always
motion.
concerned about
But there's
building
no
a boat while you're
How do I-
sailing.
Well, isn't there a time that's allotted for this agenda item? Have we passed the time?
Yes, we have passed the time on this agenda item.
You're the parliamentarian.
We have passed the time on this agenda item, and so therefore we will,
Stop talking about it.
this is passed on to the next
Tia, are you
meeting.
able to write these written procedures?
We haven't agreed on any stuff, like,
I'll start a Google Doc and we'll talk in there.
Amazing.
Okay.
Okay, so should we put this on the business agenda?
Yes. Great,
Okay, and we
great
can
idea.
Discuss the written procedures. Is that
Yes.
okay, Vanessa?
Yeah, no, yeah. That's not
Did
a
anybody
problem.
have their heart set on voting on this right now?
No, I mean, my thing is, the only reason why I said this is because we've discussed
this particular resolution and Natasha.
Yes.
And I
exactly.
thought that this would
Exactly
save
my
us time in the future to kind of like just go through the procedures and be done with it.
Yeah.
But if it's gonna come up again.
It's gonna come up
I
again
feel like
anyway.
it just puts us in a weird situation to pass it and then not have, like, I mean, what if it turns out we don't have quorum now for the rest of the year?
Then it doesn't apply, like by default. because we
expires.
did
Oh,
get the
because you were
resolution.
saying by that date.
We have a request for a general public comment.
Sure, why
Okay.
not?
If, so we are moving on to the general public comment. Is there someone on Zoom who would like to make a comment? Okay. Again, if there's anyone on Zoom who would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and you can then unmute. Okay, I guess. No, and do the interpreters have any questions or comments from anyone?
There are no questions in the Spanish.
Okay, then I guess we have no comments.
There is no question from the Mandarin line
Okay.
either.
So are we going to vote on? We can go to 19.
Yes.
Right. We should. Adjourn this meeting. Wait till-
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Okay.
So, okay, it is now 9:40. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the. Oh, no.
I bought you a gavel, gavel, what is it?
Thank you, Principal Pat. That. You are and oh my God.
It's one of those meetings that I didn't feel like I was gonna take long. It's
But it did, it really did. Snuck up on us.
Interpretation, you are dismissed. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Have a
Have
good
a great
night.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Good night.
Good night.